I was certain I would die inside this house. For 19 years, cameras watched my every move, and the walls whispered that I would never leave. But tonight, a single mistake changed everything. The door to the outside world had been left wide open, igniting a spark of dangerous hope in my chest. Now, my stomach churned with a nauseating mix of excitement and terror. I had a plan. But if he caught me, the punishment wouldn't just be pain. It would be the end of me. Suddenly, a thunderous bang shattered the silence. My bedroom door flew open, vibrating against the wall. My stepfather stood in the frame, his dark eyes scanning the room before landing furiously on me. "Yes," I whispered. My voice was small, terrified. I dared not speak normally. I knew the price of his temper. The phantom pain of past bruises made me wince, a reaction his sharp eyes didn't miss. "Why aren't you asleep yet?" His voice was rough, a serrated blade. "I'm sorry, father," I mumbled, fixing my gaze on the wrinkled white sheets. He huffed, irritation radiating off him like heat. "Go to sleep." Emberly rose. "I am too tired to put up with you." He slammed the door. The sound rang in the small room, a violent echo. I waited until I heard his curses muffled by the distance, then finally, my muscles uncoiled. I lay back, my mind expanding to the very edge of sanity. Escaping a tyrant was foolish. If he caught me, I would likely face the worst beating of my life. But I had always liked taking risks. Midnight arrived, bringing a full moon that hung like a spotlight in the starry sky. I stuffed a bag with clothes, my nose scrunching at the smell of the room, a scent of bad memories clinging to the plain walls. Quiet as a ghost, I slid into the hallway. His door was closed. The heavy, rhythmic sound of snoring drifted through the wood. He was asleep. I took a shallow breath and began the descent. 2 sets of hardwood stairs lay between me and freedom. I moved on tiptoes, the floorboards groaning softly under my sneakers. My heart hammered against my ribs, erupting with adrenaline every few seconds. I reached the bottom floor. The long, fuzzy rug dampened my steps as I approached it. The big, white door. I hated this house. Since my mother died, he had used me for his own dark satisfaction, feeding on my fear. I prayed he would rot here alone. I reached for the handle. Suddenly, the automatic lights flooded the hall with blinding brightness. I froze, suppressing a gasp. I was too close. I couldn't fail now. Silence held. No one was behind me. I wrapped my fingers around the cold metal and twisted. Click. The sound felt thunderous in the quiet night, making me grimace. I squeezed through the gap and stepped out. The chill hit me instantly. The late March breeze grazed my pale skin, biting through my thin shirt, but I didn't care. I filled my lungs with fresh, untainted air. My legs carried me toward the woods, happiness blooming in my chest for the first time in years. I was out. I was free. Then, the thunder returned. Emberly, get back in the house.
Author's introductory note. Adrenaline is a liar. It tells you that you are faster and stronger than you actually are, just to get you through the door. But in this chapter, we watch what happens when that chemical rush fades. Emberly isn't just running from a person, she is running from a lifetime of conditioning. Watch closely how quickly her mind betrays her when the physical exhaustion hits. It is a terrifying look at how trauma tries to pull a victim back to their abuser.
Chapter 2. Emberly Harper's POV. The loud, familiar voice rang in my ears, shock seizing me and freezing me in place. Looking back at his open window, I noticed that he was suddenly no longer there. That could only mean one thing. My theory was proven as soon as he slammed open the front door and stood there furiously. His dark hair was disheveled, his eyes angrier than ever. Pure fury mirrored in them, his breathing heavy and harsh. "This is your last chance to come inside before I come there and drag you in," he shouted, gritting his yellowish teeth. My knees buckled, my eyes feeling like they were about to pop out of their sockets. In that very moment, I came to a decision that would either ruin my life or free me. I ran. My weak legs carried my body weight as I started jumping over exposed tree roots. Tripping would be a mistake, especially with a raging man running after me at full speed. "I am going to catch you, you ungrateful girl," he spat, every single one of his words sounding truthful and promising. And that was precisely what I feared. My lungs were pulsating, begging me to stop running. My leg muscles burned, my whole body radiating with aches. With a cry, I pushed forward. Looking behind me for a split second, I could see him slowing down. He was bending over, his lungs not allowing him to continue the harsh activity. "When I find you, you will regret this. I can promise you that." I heard his faint shout in the distance. Tears started to run down my face from relief, shock, fear, and overwhelming pain in most of my muscles. When it all mixed up and exploded, I fell to the ground. My palms and knees hit the mushy earth first. Thankfully, I was not hurt. Pulling myself against the roots of a big pine tree, I let my head fall back and my body rest a bit. My heart was ramming against my ribcage, my lungs aching from the deep breaths I took in the span of those 10 minutes of running. I was completely and utterly exhausted, my mind still processing what had happened. I was still equally shocked, but I managed to move as I wiped the big, warm tears from my cold cheeks. Sniffing, I picked myself off the damp ground. My bag was no longer on my back, which meant he probably took it with him. He thought I was going to come back to get it.
Author's insight. This is a critical turning point in the survival arc. Losing the bag isn't just an inconvenience, it strips her of her only plan and resources. Now, she isn't an escapee with a strategy, she is destitute and exposed, raising the stakes from getting away to simply surviving the elements.
Story chapter continuation. Feeling my legs almost give up on me, I continued walking in an unknown direction. I did not know these woods at all, so all I could do was hope. Hope that I will find a place where I can finally settle and feel safe. I often tripped over logs and rocks, but somehow did not fall. I was clumsy, to say the least. That was why the woods were not quite my scenery. But I did not really have any choice. It was either this or rotting in that house with him. Peeling open my heavy eyes, I was instantly greeted with intense sunlight. What time was it? Covering my eyes with my hand and letting them slowly adjust, I quieted and took some time to listen. Birds chirping and blowing wind. A heavy flowing river. Finally looking around, I got to take in the beautiful scenery that I had not noticed last night. Wanting to get up and move, I felt my limbs being stretched out again. I groaned in pain, leaning on the rough tree bark. It almost felt soothing under my fingertips. With nothing but a determined spirit, I started moving again. Slower this time, since my body did not let me do much. I was slow and aching. Stomach empty and throat dry, I needed to find some source of food and drink. Even though I had a river not so far away, it was more dirt than water, so I had to pass on that. Passing a lot of similar-looking trees and bushes, I almost lost hope that I would ever find someone to help me. This was a big forest, after all. Curled up in a ball later that evening, I started crying again. Emotion flooded me, crashing like an intense and overwhelming wave of sadness. Cold air surrounded me as the night slowly took over. The moon was rising, but its silvery glow revealed much. Maybe much more than needed. "I'm gonna have to go to that house again," I mumbled to myself, coming to a horrific realization. I was going to get severe punishment. For a moment, I could swear I felt the places where bruises were going to be. The usual ones, after all. Right when I was about to push myself off the cold ground, I heard a faint crunchy noise. Branches were breaking under someone's big and heavy feet, making me almost lose my breath for a split second. "Who is there?" I asked, my voice shaking in fear. Maybe it was Andreas, my stepfather. "Father, is that you? Please don't hurt me, I am." I began stumbling over my words, but all of my actions stopped as soon as I saw what stepped out of a tree's shadow. A wolf. Or was it? A big, bulky animal was now directly facing me, its golden eyes staring me down. I felt hopeless in that moment and cursed myself for even taking a step in this forest. The animal suddenly leapt forward, the massive body about to land on my fragile one. And in that moment, before I could feel a single thing, I passed out.
ENDOF chapter author's analysis. I think there is a heartbreaking psychology at play in Emberly's final words. When faced with a noise in the dark, her first instinct is to apologize to her abuser. She begs Father not to hurt her, proving that in her mind, he is still the ultimate predator, scarier than the wild. When the wolf appears, the dynamic shifts instantly. She traded a human monster for a beast, and that leap at the end signifies the death of her old life. She isn't just passing out, she is falling out of the human world entirely. Audience engagement questions. Let's talk about that ending in the comments. Emberly was ready to go back to the abuse because she was hungry and cold. Have you ever seen a character driven to such desperation before? Do you think the wolf intended to attack her, or was the leap misunderstood? If you were in her position, would you have apologized to the darkness, hoping it was the stepfather, or stayed silent? Transition teaser. Emberly expects death or punishment, but when she opens her eyes next, she will realize that the beast didn't come to end her life, it came to complicate it in ways she can't imagine.
Chapter 3. Long minutes stretched out to their limits as they passed. The horribly large animal was still staring at me, its stare not softening for even a split second. Fear pumped through my veins, mixing with blood that felt cold by now. The animal launched forward out of nowhere, extending its large claws. My mind went fuzzy, and I fell back into unconsciousness before I could feel the impact. We have an intruder. A rough voice brought me back to reality and awoke me from my sleepy state. I was weak, too weak even to open my eyes. I just lay back on the soft material beneath me and listened, completely frightened. Bruno is finally here. We can take her to him. The other, equally deep voice responded. The two bodies were rather close to me, a distinct scent reaching my nose as I tried to assess my surroundings. He wouldn't like to be bothered with her, Christos, the first voice said, louder now. There was a deadly silence lingering in the cold room for a rather long time. I could still feel their presence next to me, along with their eyes on my exposed back. I felt extremely weak and vulnerable. This was not good. My gut was warning me, inner thoughts settling into a state of panic. She will wake up soon. Her breathing got deeper, one of them warned, the dark tone he used almost making me flinch. I could already tell that this man's intentions were serious. What will we do? You decide. Let's go. As soon as those words left that person's mouth, I felt a pair of arms lift my body. Cold fingers brushed my arm as he secured his grip. The man carried me with no effort, climbing up a big set of stairs. Looks like you found something interesting, didn't you, Christos? The other man asked with a small laugh. Oh no. Were these people going to hurt me? At that very moment, I cursed every single step that I took in the thick, unknown woods. Quiet down, Jonas. We'll probably put her in a secure room tonight, the man carrying me said. I shifted my limbs a bit in discomfort. A secure room? The person must have noticed my small movements, since their bulky muscles tensed more than before. A knock was soon heard. Silence took over for another good 2 minutes before a third, now much deeper voice appeared behind the door. Come in. They clicked the handle, more light now reaching my closed eyes as I furrowed my brows. God, I hated bright places. Put her down, the third masculine voice said in a demanding tone, obviously speaking to the person holding me. What happened, Bruno? The man asked, his wide chest vibrating. I did not see any of them, but I could already tell that they were intimidating. Don't question me, Christos. The third voice was raised, an angered tone ringing in my ears. I was already traumatized, but this was something different. I was sure that something difficult was about to happen. Did these people save me from that animal? Are they going to hurt me? All the questions vanished from my head as soon as I was put down on something, which seemed to be a leather chair. I slumped in it, hearing footsteps stepping away from me. This here, the third voice started talking, getting my full attention now. This is all mine. A growl escaped the person's throat, sounding deep and vibrant. I gulped, hoping that the sentence was not made about me. What was he talking about? I heard a faint gasp and a shuffle. You finally found her? I did. And now I'm going to wait until she wakes up. Minutes passed until I finally gained enough strength and bravery to peel my eyes open. The colors around the bright room instantly attacked my vision, making me squint for a couple of seconds. Remembering the situation, I opened them widely. There, not so far away from me, I saw 3 men sitting in black leather chairs. Their bright, colorful eyes stared at me intently. I gulped, my throat hurting terribly as I did so. I needed something to drink, or else I would lose my voice. Where am I? I asked, as calmly as possible. Looking around the spacious room, I noticed that this was most likely a study. Stacks of books and binders rested on dark shelves, everything in perfect order. The person whose office this was must be very neat. Looking back at the 3 men, I saw that they were more tense than before. 2 of them were staring at the man in the middle. His facial expression was plain, his blue eyes staring at me intensely. The hue of green in his stormy blue eyes brought no comfort, but he was undeniably striking. He ran his long fingers through his sandy blonde, thick hair before he started speaking. You are on the territory of the Lunan Nara pack, my dear, he informed me shortly. Confusion took over me. Pack? I asked. She is human, Bruno, the other man with charcoal-colored hair spoke as he made contact with him. My eyes widened again, and I pulled my knees closer to my body. What were they then? She is going to have to learn a lot of things, the blonde man mentioned, a faint smile playing on his lips. The light Italian accent he carried in his deep, rough voice increased as he spoke. I had no idea what they meant. Where will I take her, Bruno? She is obviously too frightened, the third one asked, jumping into the conversation. You are not taking her anywhere. I am taking her to my room, he said, getting up to his feet now. He stood over 6 feet tall, making his way over to me slowly. To your room? I asked, my words a cluttered mess. Was I seriously in danger? Yes, because what's mine deserves to always be next to me. His? Chapter 4. Dropping me on the enormous king-sized bed, he started walking over to the other side of the lit-up room. Every step he took radiated dominance and pure power. Who is this man? Even though I was still scared, I started looking around the expensive-looking bedroom. From top to bottom, everything in here was either black or gray. Amidst that, my red, oversized t-shirt stood out. Collecting myself on the bed, I did not dare to move. You are one beautiful girl, don't you know? The man suddenly reappeared, his attire now changed to sweatpants and a plain white t-shirt. He approached the bed slowly, making me feel like prey to a hungry animal ready to attack. He stood on the edge of the bed, his straight eyebrow raised daringly. I gulped, letting my first thoughts spill out of my mouth. Please don't hurt me. I blurted out, almost in a shout, as I covered my face with my hands instinctively. I was expecting a hit or even a harsh word, but got nothing but the man's airy laugh. I dropped my hands to my lap, looking up at him hesitantly. His face had returned to normal, his arms held behind his back. I would never harm you, my dear, he said with a softer tone this time, sending me a slight wink. My stomach flipped and turned, but my body relaxed slightly. He sat down on the bed, putting his hands behind his head as he let it drop between the soft pillows. Tell me your name. I can't call you by nicknames forever, can I? He said, wetting his lips. Please do. Emberly, I let out, which was followed by a rough cough. I surely needed something to drink, which he noticed instantly. He handed me a bottle of water that was placed on his desk, cracking it open for me. Emberly. Such a beautiful name, he told me as I started drinking the soothing, cold water. The way it rolled off his tongue was enough to make my knees buckle. Luckily, I was sitting down. Thank you, I said shyly. Would you tell me why I'm here? Did those men save me from that animal? I asked, getting curious now that I had relaxed. His eyebrows raised, making his beautiful eyes stand out more than before. With a sigh, he sat up properly, scooting closer to me. And that seemed to faze both of us. You are here with a purpose. Emberly, you are here so you could be mine, he said, making my eyes widen instantly. Was this man insane? Of course, you don't understand what that means, he breathed out slowly. A familiar feeling of fear quickly built in my body as he said that. "What are you talking about?" I asked, seeing that his facial expression darkened. He blinked slowly, taking in a sharp breath before starting to speak again. "I am a werewolf," he said, making me give him a confused and frightened look. "I read about werewolves, ancient, powerful creatures that lived in big packs and had their leaders. Are you joking?" I asked harshly, hoping that he would laugh right after. But to my misfortune, his face stayed plain and without emotion. "No, Mia Ballerina, I am not. You are my mate," he said, his icy blue eyes now changing colors. A red tone flashed in his orbs, making me jump back. This was true. My jaw dropped from the shock, my brain wanting to believe that this was nothing but a sick joke. Was he going to keep me here forever? Wanting to say something, I started moving my mouth. But nothing came out, most likely making me look ridiculous. His eyes now softened, bringing back more green than blue. He moved towards me, but I did nothing but back away. I was currently sitting with something that could rip my head off so easily. But thankfully, he chose not to. "Don't be scared of me. I am here to protect you," he reassured, finally letting him take my hand in his. Warm waves that radiated off his smooth skin warmed my body up almost instantly. I slipped my hand out of his huge one, not feeling good about touching him now. "Go to sleep now. You are tired," he said, clearing his throat. "Here." "Yes, here," he answered, lifting the covers so I could get under. Even though I was ready to fall asleep, my mind was wide awake and panicking. "I don't think I'll be able to fall asleep after this," I said, scooting away from him as much as I could. What was going to happen now? He looked at me sharply, a slight grin stretching over his lips. I could feel my breath hitch, so I looked away and hoped that he would too. "Don't worry. I will help," he said, clicking off the lamp that gave this room a small amount of light. Resting between the pillows, I heard him breathe out a small sigh before turning to his back and closing his eyes. "Oh God, I think there will be no sleep for me tonight."
Introductory author insight. I think waking up in a strange bed is terrifying, but waking up next to a predator should be paralyzing. Yet, watch Emberly's actions closely in the first few seconds of this chapter. Before she tries to escape, she does something completely contradictory that proves her resolve is already crumbling. We are witnessing the war between her trauma, which tells her to run, and the mate bond, which is already telling her she is home.
Chapter 5. Peeling my watery eyes open, I instantly noticed different surroundings. The walls were no longer pale yellow, they were now a dark gray. Everything was different, including the bed I was sleeping on. Thankfully, it was comfortable and warm, something I was not used to. I turned to the other side, my muscles stretching painfully in the process. My face fell as soon as I noticed a bulky man sleeping peacefully just a few inches away from me. His warm skin glowed under the sun peeking through the white curtains while he lay sprawled on the bed. Realization came rushing to me, quicker and stronger than expected. I was lying in bed with someone who had a wolf inside him. I was destined to be with him. With a shaky breath, I got off the bed slowly. Escaping was probably my best option again. For how long was I going to run? Stepping onto the carpeted floor, I noticed that goosebumps kept creeping up and down my spine, then flowing to all of my limbs. I was extremely cold. Looking into Bruno's closet, I noticed a pale red sweatshirt. It stood out in the sea of black, so it was pretty easy to find. Knowing that this man would not lack any clothes, I hesitantly took the sweatshirt off the hanger and pulled it over my thin shirt. As soon as the soft material touched my skin, I felt warmer. Knowing that my shoes were placed next to the bed, I tiptoed over there and slipped them on with a slight struggle. The window was a perfect place to escape through, considering that it was not so far from the grassy ground. Just as I was about to open the window, I felt a hand on my upper arm pulling me back. Turning around in one swift move, I was now facing Bruno. He looked down at me, his eyes holding pure fury. His eyes darkened, his usual icy green eyes turning into a darkening storm. "Where do you think you're going?" he growled, his face getting extremely close to mine. With a gulp, I tried to step back. "Talk to me," he growled again, walking closer. Helpless, I found myself against a gray wall. I wanted out, I mumbled quietly, basically admitting my attempt to escape. He snarled, another growl bubbling deep from his throat. With thundering speed and strength, he pulled me towards him and wrapped his arms around my waist. Breathing heavily, I stood my ground stiffly. Lifting me up as if I weighed nothing, he brought me back to the bed. Due to his sudden movement, my body flinched instinctively. He sat down, holding me in his arms. "Let me go. I don't want to be here," I said lowly, struggling to escape his tight grip, which did not work as well as I thought it would. "You are not going anywhere, not now that I finally found you," he said, almost sweetly, as he took a strand of my hair between his fingers and twirled it around. As much as I found that calming, I could not escape the realization that clouded my brain. I was trapped in a house with a werewolf who wanted me to be with him forever, right when I had escaped. My brain was screaming at me, denying the things he said. I was not his, and I was not going to stay with him. Sure, he was extraordinarily handsome and smart-seeming, but if I stayed, my freedom would be blocked. I would not be able to live the life I always wanted. I wanted to be alone, free. Not controlled by someone's animalistic instincts. My eyes suddenly teared up at the thought. He finally released me from his hold, but still stared at me worriedly. "Did I hurt you, Mia Ballerina?" he asked, reaching for me. Before his hand could touch my skin, I backed away. I shook my head, standing up from the messy bed. "May I use your shower?" I asked, trying to gather myself. He nodded slowly, pointing to the bathroom connected to his room. As expected, the bathroom was larger than usual. The mirror on the wall finally allowed me to see my reflection after these shocking couple of days. A small gasp escaped my lips as soon as I saw what I looked like. Dark bags hung under my eyes. My honey-colored hair was tangled, some strands clinging to my face. It must have been from all the tears I spilled early this morning. I looked worse than usual, but the only thing that seemed to fix that was a piece of Bruno clothing resting on my upper body. It being oversized, I felt like I was drowning in the soft material and his masculine scent. With a shake of my head, I started stripping my clothes off. Standing in the shower numbly, I felt the lukewarm water trickle from my scalp down my back. All the filth slowly disappeared from my body, the scented shampoo lathering my skin. Tears slowly stung my eyes, indicating that waterfalls were about to spill down my cheeks. But the only difference now was the fact that they were going to mix with the water. So it would be as if I did not cry at all? "Oh, Mother, if you were still here," I whispered, knowing that everything would be different if she were with me. Everything would be better. A sudden loud knock on the bathroom door made me jump, almost slipping on the wet floor. "Bruno, man, are you done yet?" "I've been waiting for an hour." I heard a manly shout, similar to the one I had heard before. Panic overwhelmed me again, and I got dressed as quickly as possible. Opening the door, I was faced with a tall male leaning on the doorframe. As soon as he saw me, he stepped back in surprise. "You are not Bruno. You are Emberly." "Sorry," he grimaced, shoving his hands into his jeans pockets. I had to suppress the smile creeping onto my face caused by his grimace. Just as I was about to say something, Bruno entered the room and looked at the two of us with slightly narrowed eyes. As he approached, I could not help but admire the way he looked. The suit he was wearing complemented his figure just right, making me rip my eyes away from him in embarrassment. "I see you met Christos," he said, breathing out. "Christos is my beta. The most foolish person of them all. So if you ever have a problem, please don't come to him," he said, almost pleading. I looked at Christos, seeing that he stared at Bruno with narrowed eyes and a hand placed over his chest dramatically. "What a nice way to introduce me, Bruno. I am, in fact, an overly smart person. Handsome and intelligent. What else do you need in life?" he asked, sending me a grin that I returned. I could already tell Christos was the funny one. With a roll of his beautiful blue eyes, Bruno pulled Christos towards the door. "We're going to be late. It was nice meeting you again, Emberly." Christos waved at me just before the doors closed. With a small smile, I returned to the bed. Was this going to be my life if I stayed here?
Audience engagement questions. This chapter gave us a lot of mixed signals, and I want your opinion. Be honest, if you were trying to escape a werewolf, would you have stopped to put on his sweatshirt first? Bruno went from growling, "You are not going anywhere," to gently asking if he hurt her. Is this protectiveness attractive, or is his mood swing a red flag? First impressions of Christos, the beta. Do we trust the funny guy, or is he just another guard dog? Transition teaser. Emberly has met the alpha and the beta, but now that the door has closed and she is left alone in the heart of the territory, she is about to discover that the biggest threat might not be the men, but the other women of the pack.
Chapter 6. Morning came quickly, and I was awoken by the harsh wind this time. It was battering against the walls of the house, buzzing through my ears with every gust of air. Lifting myself to my feet, I took a chance to look out of the wide window. Tall pine trees were bending slightly from the force of the wind, and not even birds were flying in the air. Even if I managed to escape today, it would most likely be a bad idea. I surely did not want to run in that weather. Bruno was not in the room, which made it feel even bigger. Feeling hunger kick my stomach violently, I fought with myself for a while before deciding to search for a kitchen. Opening the massive doors of his bedroom, I found myself in a dark hallway with multiple staircases. It instantly reminded me of a horror book I was reading a while ago. Deciding to take the staircase that led downstairs, it instantly seemed like a great path since I heard two voices talking. Quiet voices rang within the wide walls, guiding me somehow. Finally, looking around the corner, I saw two figures sitting at long kitchen stools. They were still talking, looking like they did not want to be bothered. A harsh look on Bruno's face told me everything. So just when I was about to back up and walk back to the spacious room, my stomach erupted in a loud growl. Closing my eyes, I heard footsteps approaching me. "Good morning," I heard a cheery voice. Opening my eyes slowly, I was now faced with a smiling Christos. "Morning," I mumbled, looking down at my bare feet. The cold feeling of tiles stung my skin, making me shift from one leg to another. "Come in, we have breakfast," he said, the word breakfast, making me snap my head up. Following him to the spacious kitchen, I instantly noticed Bruno stare at me. It was not harsh, but still seemed too intense. "Good morning," I said, slightly louder this time. With a smile, he returned the gesture. "Oh, and no proper good morning for Christos." "I see how it is," I heard Christos mumble as he fiddled with a loaf of bread, trying to open the packet. Looking at the table, I noticed various plates placed across the counter. Not that I was a picky eater, but none of them seemed too appetizing. "And this is what it looks like when Christos attempts to cook," Bruno snickered, earning a playful glare from his beta. "I can try if you want me to," I said, hesitation dripping off my voice. Bruno got up, getting closer to me with a smile on his lips. "Please do, mia ballerina," he said in a pleading tone, both of us ignoring Christos's grumbling. "Thank you for the breakfast," he said, getting up from his seat quickly. "I am going to a meeting and you're staying with him." He nodded toward Christos. With no expression, I looked away from him and sat down on the stool. With a sigh, he left. "Are you down for some cookies?" "I made them last night," Christos stated, making me turn my head to face him. Shaking my head, I started fiddling with my shirt. "Oh, come on, loosen up a bit." "It's not like you're held hostage," he roared, spreading out his arms. "I am held hostage," I said, my voice finally having an even tone. "Holding someone hostage means someone is torturing you to get money," he said in an obvious tone. "Holding someone hostage means keeping someone against their will, you stupid," I corrected him, a laugh escaping me for a split second. "Did you just call me stupid?" he mumbled, making my laughing stop instantly. "Oh God. I'm sorry, I did not mean to." My voice turned shaky as I saw how serious his face was. His pale green eyes bored into mine, making me look away. What was about to happen to me? Don't worry, I am used to it." He barked out a laugh, his quirky manner coming back. He was really the opposite of Bruno, I could already tell. Christos was quirky and fun. But on the other side, Bruno was serious and collected, which sometimes made him even more attractive. The doors suddenly slammed open, making me jump off the stool in shock. My heart started beating fast again, but calmed down once I saw that a smiling couple had entered the house. "Oh my dear God, she is finally here," the blonde, short woman shouted, engulfing me in a bone-crushing hug. Confusion washed over me, and I could not do anything but stand stiffly. "We have been waiting for you for so long." "Waited for me?" "Marta, you can let her go." "The poor girl is frightened," a tall, bulky man said with a soft chuckle decorating his voice. Both of them shared some features with Bruno, so I guess they were his parents. "I am Marta, dear. Sorry for that attack." She laughed softly as she took a step back. "I am Emberly," I said, glancing over at her husband. He was looking at me with a small smile playing on his lips. "I am Frederick." "We are Bruno parents," he said, holding his huge hand out for a shake. Hesitantly, I shook his hand. "Emberly." Stepping back shyly, I watched as Christos jumped into the conversation. "Why don't we all go to the living room?" "I made cookies," he said, offering a plate of dark brown cookies on a white porcelain plate. The couple shared a look, and Bruno, mother, took the plate from him. "Christos, honey, I think you should give up on these," she said with a sympathetic smile struggling on her pale face. With a small huff, Christos trailed off somewhere further in the house, probably the living room. "Shall we?" the woman offered. I nodded, following after them as they began walking quickly. Chapter 7. Sitting on the elegant furniture in the living room, I watched as these three people talked freely. Looking normal, they could definitely pass as regular people. But I kept reminding myself they were animals. Sharp white canines and long, dangerous claws were part of them. "And what about you, Emberly? Where are you from?" the woman asked all of a sudden, making me snap out of my trance and look back at her. "Not so far away from here," I forced out, not knowing what else to answer. God damn it, I did not know where I was right now or how far I had traveled to get here. "Oh," she began speaking, but was cut off as soon as a crashing sound erupted in the house. All four of us looked at the front door to see Bruno standing there, his stance wide. His chest heaved up and down, his eyebrows knitted together. "What happened, son?" his father asked, getting to his feet. Even though this man must have been over 50, he did not look a day older than 35. "The rogues," he shouted angrily, knocking down the first thing in his sight. It was a large glass vase that shattered into a million small pieces on the cold tile floor. The loud noise made me jump, which attracted Bruno's attention. But also his mother's. "Come here, darling, let's go upstairs," she said, looking at me with pure and understanding eyes. Nodding without a second thought, I placed my hand in hers. She took me up 2 flights of stairs, leaving me confused as to where we were going. After a decent amount of time, she stopped in front of a room with big, wide doors. The room looked normal. It was a guest room, I guessed, by the perfectly made bed and the lack of personalized items. She guided me to the bed and closed the door after us, then sat on the bed with me. Feeling relieved that I was almost alone, I slightly relaxed my back muscles. "Emberly, you don't have to be afraid of us. We won't harm you," she spoke, breaking the silence that surrounded us. I blinked, looking down onto the burgundy sheets. "I am kept here against my will. I don't really know how else to feel," I said quietly, a slight hint of sarcasm lacing my words. "With a reason," she answered softly, making me finally look at her properly. I took a look at her green eyes, one of the many traits she shared with her son. They held no bad intentions, which was not something I was used to. What could be the reason for kidnapping someone? I asked, making her let out a fit of wholehearted giggles. "My dear, this is not kidnapping. Bruno just does not want you to leave him. You are his," she trailed off, struggling with the words. "Mate," I finished the sentence, making her nod with ease. "Yes, you're his mate. His Luna. Someone the moon goddess destined him to," she said, looking out the window with a bright smile on her face. I knew she was turning back to some of her own memories, which seemed to be wonderful by the look on her face. "You know, you might not have a good opinion of him now. But trust me when I tell you this, I've almost never seen him so happy in his whole life," she said, her eyes fluttering with happiness. "Was he happy?" Gulping, I forced myself to look down again. My thoughts were piling up. I was truly questioning everything. How? You will need some time to get used to him. I know I needed time also. But in the end, it will all turn out just right, she reassured me, reaching out to grab my hand once again. Her touch was warm. The touch of a harmless female was just what I needed to calm my nerves. One side of me screamed to get away from her. The other side screamed louder to accept it. So, I did nothing. I was quiet, all of my words long gone and forgotten. Deep down, I was questioning myself again. What would a happy life with him be like? He is a sweetheart, she explained, trying desperately to convince me. As you said, I will need time, I replied, my normal voice returning. I was no longer whispering. Suddenly, a loud knock erupted through the quiet room. Both of us jumped, seeing Bruno, father's head pop in. He was smiling slightly, with only good intentions radiating off him. It's time to go, darling, he called his wife, making her offer a slight grin to me before walking out the door. And then I was alone again with the man called Bruno. Chapter 8. Sitting in the comfortable bed, I watched as the tall man before me shouted over the phone. His voice was deeper than usual, roaring in my ears. His tense body dropped onto the bed as he ended the call angrily. Eyes closed, he let out a huff. This gave me a second or two to take a good look at him. Sand-colored hair strands flew in different directions, some dropping onto his forehead. His white t-shirt was tight on his body, making every muscle bulge as he made sharp, powerful movements. Taking into consideration what his mother had told me just an hour ago, I cleared my throat. Something bad happened? As I asked the question, I watched his eyes fly open in shock. It was a wonder that I spoke to him at all. Something you don't understand yet, he said in a gentle manner, waking my curiosity. Fiddling with my fingers, I gave in to my thoughts. Then tell me. His head turned again, surprise written on his face. Suddenly, a breathtaking smile flashed on his lips as he gave me a small nod. Sitting closer to me now, I had to resist the strong instinct to back away. Wolves live in packs. And rogues, they have been expelled from their packs. They usually get killed. He spoke almost professionally, his tone changing like the weather outside. Oh. I used to read about werewolves. I had various books that my mother left behind. I sometimes found those creatures interesting, but I never thought that I would soon be in contact with one. So you killed. I did not finish the sentence. Instead, I looked up at him for an answer. Go to sleep now, you're tired. We can talk about this tomorrow, he dismissed, making me nod with understanding and dive underneath the soft covers. Pacing around the dark, lightless, and cold room, I realized that there was basically no exit. The only opening was a big metal door that I had already desperately tried to open. Unfortunately, it was sealed shut. My breathing was getting heavier with every minute, my heart's pace refusing to slow down. Cold air seemed to radiate off the bare walls, soaking into my body and making me shiver uncontrollably. Considering that I did not even know how I ended up in this room, I was even more frustrated and frightened. Questions tumbled around in my mind, but they were all interrupted by the loud, obnoxious creaking of the metal door. Backing up against the cold wall, I was now somewhat ready to see who brought me here. You thought that running would be a good idea? A haunting, scratchy voice said as the tall figure appeared in the doorway. Blood froze in my veins as my breathing became shallow. His dark, gloomy eyes bored into my whole body. Not only in a hateful way, but I was also assured. Letting out a piercing scream, I watched as he made his way over to me. Hearing his heavy steps echo in my ears, I felt tears start falling down my cheeks. This will teach you not to mess with me anymore, he said, a dark tone lacing his voice as he raised his hand. Jumping up from the bed, I heard a loud cry bring both of us out of our dreams. Feeling a strong pair of arms wrap around me, I started sobbing uncontrollably. Bruno did not ask any questions. He just rocked me in his embrace. Basically, as I climbed into his lap, I felt my heavy tears stain the material of his white shirt. He will find me, Bruno. I can't escape him. I shouted, my voice almost unrecognizable as I clutched the soaked white material that fitted his body perfectly. His long fingers tangled in my hair, tugging slightly at the roots. His breathing was getting heavier, and I could tell that his heart rate was speeding up dangerously fast. Who? What did they do to my mate? He asked finally, his voice deeper than usual. Being too afraid of his further, most likely furious, actions, I tried to calm my flustered mind. A hiccup escaped my lips uncontrollably, making him reach for my back and rub soothing circles onto my lower spine. Emberly, I need to know. Please tell me what happened. Who will find you? His caring tone made me lift my head and look at his beautiful features. The only thing imperfect on his face at the time was the deep frown he held. My stepfather. He will find me, I said, half of my words turning into whines as tears welled up in my eyes. He let out a small yet obvious string of curses, then looked back at me. I was terrified of what he was going to do next, so I did the only thing that came to my mind. Pressing my head against his rock-solid chest, I noticed my cries lessen and my breathing stabilize. No one will ever be able to hurt you, Mia Ballerina. I can assure you, I will always be there to protect you. Whoever comes even close to the thought of hurting you will suffer severe consequences. His words lowered, becoming tender whispers against my ear. Nodding understandingly, I tried climbing off his comforting lap. But that did not work as his grip on me tightened. Come here, he mumbled, lifting the sheets and getting underneath them smoothly with me in his arms. For some strange reason that my brain couldn't even process, I didn't mind it. The attraction that this man was giving me was all that mattered. Chapter 9. Waking up to a warm feeling surrounding my body, I finally opened my eyes wide to see Emberly sleeping soundly right next to me. Pressed tightly against my body, she seemed even smaller and more vulnerable. Feeling the familiar tingles from last night creep up on my skin again, I smiled and reached my hand up to touch the smooth skin of her exposed, pale shoulder. By her pale complexion, I noticed that she did not go outside often, which raised a worry inside of me. While I was looking at her beautiful, flawless face, I finally realized that this woman was my everything. My future. I would forever watch her eyes. The earthy color, the color of earth after heavy rains, sometimes even the color of a glistening copper penny. Her hair even had an earthy tone to it. It reminded me of trees and baked mud, which I could not love more. I would forever watch her lips, the rosy tint they held sending me into intoxication just by looking at them. Her short but curvy figure drove me insane right from the first moment I saw her in my chair. All of a sudden, like a strong wind, a familiar deep voice filled my ears and made me reluctantly crawl away from her. I see Alpha Bruno is becoming soft. Looking up furiously, I noticed Christos. His mocking, pouting face made me see red instantly. What are you doing here? I lowered my voice once I glanced over at Emberly and saw that she stirred in her deep sleep. Looking back at him, I noticed that his features had gone back to normal and his expression fell. That made me get up forcefully, knowing that something was, in fact, wrong. We found information on Emberly, he said, nodding his head over to her as he crossed his tanned arms. Almost panicking, I nodded my head before walking out of the room and following Christos over to the third floor of my pack house. In the spacious room we used for tracking enemies, 2 men waited. Both of them had a higher ranking than the rest, I instantly noticed. They bowed their heads in respect, rising from their black leather chairs. Impatiently, I walked over to the big hardwood desk that was covered with multiple files filled with bold letters. What did you find? I asked, picking up a paper with unfamiliar names. Everything Alpha, one of the wolves, Adriano, told me as he walked away from his chair and gave me the spot. Thankful, I took it and let my eyes skim over the information. Emberly Harper, 18 years old. Born on the 20th of April. Been living with her stepfather only since her mother passed away at a young age. Adriano filled me in, making my brain soak up all the information instantly. Her stepfather? I asked out of nowhere, my brain collecting the pieces of a straightforward puzzle. My wolf was already furious, wanting to go on a hunt for a man that hurt my precious mate. The wolves, including Christos, looked at me with a dash of confusion sparkling in their shifting eyes. They knew damn well something was wrong. Josiah Bartley, 48 years old. An alcohol addict and works as that village's sheriff. Never got a visit from the police. The household always seemed rather calm. My breathing became shallow, my canines pointing through my flesh, caused by all the fury that was erupting in me. Find me that bastard and bring him here. I will personally make him pay. Slamming my fist so hard on the desk that it made dents, I stormed out of the room and into a hallway packed with doors. Hearing heavy footsteps approaching me, I turned around to see Christos's worried expression. What happened back there, he asked, obviously not filled in on any of the information that I could easily give him this morning. He abused her, Christos. My mate had to run away to save her life. And now he is about to pay for everything that he did to her. I'm going to find out exactly what kinds of things he was doing. Wanting to go to our room, I started walking, my steps now basically stomping. But to my surprise, I was stopped by Christos, who jumped in front of me. His eyes were sharp, studying my facial expression. What? I roared, making him curse lowly and let out yet another sigh before speaking to me. You can't go in there looking like a madman. The poor girl just got used to you, he advised, making me calm down just for her sake. I did not want her to run away from me, so I nodded and somewhat calmly made my way over to my previous destination. Walking into the quiet room, I noticed a shivering figure wrapped in pure white sheets. Mia Ballerina. I found out more about you, I announced hesitantly. Her head appeared above all the white material. Her brown irises were rimmed with a pinkish hue, created by her fallen tears. You what? She questioned, her voice shaking unbearably. I found out more information about you, along with your stepfathers, I said, watching miserably as she began spilling painful tears again. I wanted to lie down next to her and comfort her, keep her close to me, and tell her that it would be fine soon. So I tried desperately to move closer to her. Get away, she suddenly let out, making something in me crash miserably. Mia Ballerina, please. I tried, but was cut off as soon as her cry filled my ears again. I don't want to be here. Why won't you just let me go? Chapter 10. Emotions seemed to take over me, my wolf wanting to claim her fully. Rage flowed through my veins. Feeling sharp canines growing, I let out my anger on the first thing I could see. The stiff wood of the doorway collided with my hand, pain spreading throughout my bruised knuckles. Mine. My voice turned into a growl, my possessive nature now led by my wolf's instincts. Making my way over to the bed and my small mate curled up in the middle of it, I watched as she tried to wrap herself in the warm sheets even more. Mine. You are meant to be mine. The moon goddess destined for us to be together. And you can't do anything about it. I let the words flow out of me with no second thought. She wants to run away from us. Asterisk, my wolf raged, wishing to free himself from the strong willpower and control that I had over him. If I shifted my mind to anything else, he would explode out of my skin and scare our mate even more. She did nothing but sit in the same position. Her brows were knitted, trying to hide the tears that were about to fall from her glossy eyes. Wanting to let my animal out, I turned my back and stomped out the door, my steps echoing through the hallway aggressively. On my way out, I made eye contact with a perplexed Christos. Stay with her, I dismissed before he could say anything, which would most probably make me even angrier. Running out, I finally let him take over. The sound of bones cracking filled my ears, making me realize that I had gone back to my animal form. Opening my eyes, I noticed that all my senses sharpened as my animal instincts took over completely. Spreading my paws and lunging forward, I started running extremely fast. Diving into the thick pine woods, I started my run. Trees and weeds passed me in a blur, only one thing occupying my mind. It was a place where I commonly went, where I was strangely happy and peaceful. In less than 15 minutes, I reached a clear meadow. The wind blew, making the long grass tilt to my right. Bringing various scents to my nose, I could not help but notice that the forest was strangely calm. Approaching the house later, guilt washed over me. Just by the energy lingering in the cold air, I could tell that Emberly was not doing well. Grabbing a pair of red basketball shorts that were prepared for me on the couch, I shifted back to human form and slipped them on. Making my way up the stairs as quietly as a mouse, I approached our room. Feeling my breathing get shallow, I prepared myself for the sight I was about to face. I knew that Christos was in there with her, comforting her instead of me. Opening the heavy double doors, I shifted my eyes to the bed where they were. My wolf was wild, but I forced myself to remain calm at the sight of her crying on his shoulder. Seeing me, Christos apologized to Emberly and rose from the bed quickly. Not wanting even to look my way, he walked out and closed the doors. That was my sign that I had messed up. Badly. Asterisk Mia Ballerina asterisk, I spoke, moving my feet closer to the bed she was tightly curled up on. She was sensitive, without doubt. And it was entirely my fault for not caring about it when I got angry. Trying to touch her, I watched as she flinched and scooted away toward the headboard. I am so sorry, Mia Ballerina. I did not mean to lash out at you like that, I said softly, knowing that those words came straight from my heart. I just now fully realized how sensitive she was, most likely horribly abused and traumatized. She suddenly rose, her bloodshot eyes meeting mine. Her once warm and innocent eyes were now filled with anger and coldness. You claimed me as if I was an animal. What am I? Her voice rose, raspy and at the point of breaking. You don't know what kinds of things you made me remember, she whispered, heavy tears running down her face. At this point, I was devastated, aching to touch and comfort her, to fix the mess that I created. Tell me about it, I begged. Shaking her head, she rolled over and covered herself in the sheets. Not today. Breathing out, I took small steps back until I was at the doorway. Good night, Mia Ballerina. With that, I closed the doors and made my way over to the closest guest room. Praying to the moon, I closed my eyes and hoped that everything would be better tomorrow. Chapter 11. Waking up in a cold bed felt strange. I had already gotten used to Bruno being there to warm me. It was a wonder that I missed him after only a few short hours of sleep. A natural urge took over, replaying the image of Bruno from last night, the exhausted look in his eyes as he begged for forgiveness. Yet, he had still wronged me. After closing my eyes for a long minute, I dragged my heavy body out of the comfortable bed, letting my feet meet the cold tile floor. A shiver ran through me, making me crave one of Bruno's red sweatshirts. I couldn't stop thinking about him, this dangerously attractive man who had trapped me in his arms and made me feel so many conflicting emotions. Still scolding myself for this need, I walked into the kitchen and met Christos's eyes. His intense stare made me huff, knowing the reason for his pitiful look. What? I snapped, sitting on a high stool placed against the counter. Why was everything in this house so big? He misses you, Christos spoke, his deep, raspy voice cutting through the uncomfortable silence. Looking down at the polished floor, I avoided his gaze. Even though I would never verbalize it, I missed him too. Was it even possible to miss someone who kept you captive? You miss him too, don't you? I heard him ask. I looked up to see his lips curled in a smirk. I shook my head, denying it aggressively. But feeling the heat rise to my cheeks, I knew I couldn't fool him. I was feeling something toward this man, even though this was the first time I had ever grown any liking toward a male. And what about you? Have you found your mate? I asked out of curiosity. His face fell, and his hands slammed onto the counter, making me jump. Instantly, I knew it was the wrong question to ask. The way his head hung low and his fingers twitched told me he was furious. Carefully, I hopped down from the stool and backed away. She is gone now. Thankfully, he stated suddenly, his calm returning. Gone? I asked hesitantly. He nodded, dragging his tongue over his sharp canine before making haunting eye contact with me. I killed her. My jaw dropped. Purely shocked, I leaned against the doorframe of the modern kitchen. Had Christos killed someone? She was an enemy of the pack, a rogue. One night, we sensed each other. He trailed off, pain filling his voice. And I ended it. Emberly, I regret it so much. But I had to, he said, closing his eyes forcefully to stop the tears. Go to Bruno now, Emberly. He is in his office. He dismissed me and walked away. Left confused and nervous, I made my way upstairs. After navigating several hallways, I finally found the double doors to his office. Nervousness swirled in my stomach as I knocked on the hardwood. Chapter 12. Creaking open the heavy, dark door, I peeked inside and saw the familiar male sitting at the desk. With my head low, I heard him invite me in and obeyed. I felt extremely guilty, especially when I saw him push himself to his feet and walk towards me. "Look up, mia ballerina," he spoke softly as he finally stopped in front of me, his towering figure making me feel even smaller than I already was. Looking up hesitantly, I instantly noticed how he looked. His stubbly face showed that he hadn't shaved in 2 days, and dark bags under his eyes revealed his exhaustion. He looked mentally and physically tired, which sent guilt hitting me right in the gut. "I'm sorry," I blurted out, barely audible. I was nervous about what was going to happen next, yet I did not dare to look away from his stormy, chaotically beautiful eyes. I should be the one to say sorry, mia ballerina. I was the one who lost control. I was a bad mate, a bad alpha who treated his Luna poorly, he said lowly, taking 2 small steps closer to me. It was probably a bad moment to do so, but I looked down and noticed what he was wearing. A pair of dark, washed jeans and a plain white shirt covered his body, yet he made it look so good. The fitted shirt wrapped around his upper body perfectly, following every muscle. Forcing myself to look up, I met his eyes once again and could not look away. "I was parted from what's mine," he added, a deep tone lacing his voice as he leaned in closer. Stiff as a board, I did not dare to move. Closing my eyes, I waited. While doing that, I took a whiff of his dominant scent. He smelled like pine trees with a slight linger of sandalwood that made me shiver. A sudden brush of his warmth against me made me snap out of my trance, making me jump and step back in surprise. I was now pressed against a bookshelf loaded with books I was craving to read. But now was definitely not the time. "Bruno," I gasped when I felt his hands wrap around my torso, causing a strange warmth to pulsate through my entire body. He grinned softly, no bad intentions mirroring in his expression. He looked at me with pure affection. "What is it, mia ballerina?" With his innocent voice, he called me by that nickname again. I did not know what it meant, but I was still enchanted by the way it rolled off his tongue. "This is inappropriate," I mumbled, though I did not pull away. He did not move. Instead, he held me securely. "I love seeing you like this." "Safe with me," he whispered, lowering his face so it was level with mine. Not missing a chance to make intense eye contact, his expression relaxed. I could sense his breath fanning over my face, making my heart race. Closing my eyes, I waited for the moment I had read about many times. That amazing first kiss, the one that made fireworks explode inside of you. But that did not happen. He released me from his hold and stepped back. Breathing out in relief, I proceeded to look down and fix my outfit, Bruno's plain black t-shirt that hung loosely on my body. "Come here, mia ballerina. I want to get to know you better."
End of chapter analysis. I think the most powerful move Bruno makes in this chapter is what he doesn't do. He pulls back. By denying the kiss that Emberly was actually waiting for, he proves that he has mastered his wolf. He is showing her that her comfort is more important to him than his own desire. He is pivoting from claiming her to courting her. This restraint is strategically brilliant. It leaves her wanting more, rather than feeling forced, which is the key to winning her trust. Audience engagement questions. That was a major tension breaker, so let's talk about it. He pulled away right when she closed her eyes. Was this a gentleman move, or a frustrating tease? Emberly felt guilty seeing him tired, even though he's the one keeping her there. Is she too forgiving, or is the bond manipulating her emotions? I want to get to know you better. Do you think she will finally open up about her past, or is she going to keep her walls up? Transition teaser. Narrator voice. The physical tension has broken, but now comes the interrogation, and Bruno is about to ask the questions Emberly has spent her entire life trying to avoid answering.
Chapter 13. Wrapping my arm around his, I walked at his right side as we took small steps down the green garden I had never noticed before. The colorful variety of beautifully kept flowers was the first thing to catch my attention, which was previously focused on anxious thoughts. Lilies, tulips, sunflowers, and roses were the most eye-catching in my opinion. My mother loves flowers, you know? When we all lived here together, we used to garden together, Bruno voiced, a warm tone lacing his thunderous voice and flashbacks twinkling in his eyes. He loved his mother. I could tell by the way he radiated happiness when he spoke of her. She was a petite, gifted woman, very thoughtful from what I saw. After making a small stop next to a bush of blood-red roses, we proceeded to walk over to a small wooden bench hidden beneath a towering willow tree. We sat down, my curiosity eating me alive. I wanted to know more about this man, his mysterious self never letting me know much. "Tell me something about yourself," I asked softly, my eyes meeting his. With a slight hum, he wrapped his too long, calloused fingers around a strand of my hair and started twirling it around. Unintentionally, I found myself leaning in towards his hand. He noticed it without a doubt, but instead began speaking about himself. "I am an only child, so automatically I would become an alpha," he said, the word alpha ringing in my ears especially. I made a mental note to ask him about his people. "I grew up in this house. There is nothing interesting about me, Mia Ballerina." "What about you?" he questioned, his accent thick on the nickname. It was a nickname in Italian, but unfortunately, I did not know what it meant. Feeling myself becoming more nervous, I started talking. "My mother passed away when I was very young, but you already know that. My stepfather was quite forceful and aggressive." As soon as I mentioned my stepfather, Bruno's muscles tensed up, and he looked down at me with narrowed eyes. "In what way was he forceful?" he asked lowly, making my eyes widen with the realization of his dark thoughts. "Not in that way, no." I denied, but that did not make him any less tense. Placing my hand on his chest hesitantly, I pleaded for him to calm his pulsating nerves. He nodded, then sat down normally again. "Bruno, can you tell me more about, werewolves?" I asked, my shyness surfacing again. With a dark grin, he started explaining. "Werewolves are the children of the moon. That is why the moon goddess exists. She decides which people are destined for each other." "Mates," I finished his thought, earning a satisfied smile from him. "Werewolves live in packs, of course. There is always an alpha and a Luna. They lead the entire pack. I am an alpha, which makes you the Luna, my queen," he said softly as he took my small hand and wrapped his big one around it. Blood rushed to my cheeks, making my whole face warm. But he popped the bee, making me jump the slightest bit. There are also rogues, wolves who don't have packs. They usually tend to get killed by other wolves. The life of a werewolf is very complicated. He admitted this as he continued to admire my expression, which was a mix of emotions. My heart was still pumping wildly, something that always happened when I was around him. As I noticed the moon slowly appearing in the twinkling, clear sky, I wondered how time had passed so rapidly. "Let's go inside," he said, lifting himself to his feet and reaching his full height again. As the light late spring breeze started to wrap itself around us, I was pulled by my waist against Bruno's side as we entered the much warmer house. Chapter 14. Emberly Harper's POV. Feeling much more comfortable in this enormous house, I sat in the kitchen and ate a surprisingly appetizing breakfast, considering it came from Christos's hands. Bruno was seated at my left side, the space in front of him unusually empty since he tended to eat a shocking amount of food every day. "Why aren't you eating it?" Christos asked him, a red apron that said "Kiss the Cook" wrapped around his defined torso. Sometimes, he reminded me of a 40-year-old man. "I need to work, Christos," he mumbled his response, not looking up from his phone screen. "But breakfast is the most imp. Just give me the toast and be quiet." A growl ripped deep from Bruno's chest, surprising me as I almost choked on my food. Christos, however, obeyed the order and placed a fresh piece of toast into Bruno's hand. Grimacing, Bruno hissed as the scalding hot bread touched his skin and winced, throwing it against the counter as he let out a string of curses. "Christos," he scolded with a stern glare. Christos defended himself, saying that he was following orders. Just as Bruno was about to respond, the ringtone of his cell phone became audible, stopping the pointless fight that was about to occur. Clearly annoyed, he answered the call. What? He snapped. The person on the other line spoke, making Bruno upper lip curl into a snarl. He was fuming for some reason. Find him and bring him to me immediately. I want him outside in an hour, unless you want to face the consequences. He spat with anger, clutching the phone too hard and making the screen crack. My eyes widened. I looked over at Christos and noticed that he had taken off his apron, his face deadly serious. What was going on? Despite being truly scared, I gave in to my curiosity. What happened? He looked over at me, his expression somewhat disapproving. Christos, take her up to our room, Bruno said, and without any other reaction, he disappeared behind the bulky double doors that guarded the house entrance. Confused and slightly irritated by his abrupt departure, I looked over at Christos. He just wants you to be safe, he said, probably reading my expression. Why did he run off with no explanation then? I guess we will find out soon. Sitting on the bed had now almost become a routine for me, the stifling silence seemingly strangling me as I looked for some entertainment. But since Bruno was not exactly a man for hobbies, that was hard. Not even Christos was here to keep me company. He said he had something important to do. Suddenly, out of nowhere, various deep voices rose to a shout. I jumped up, running to the closest window to peek through the thin curtains. 3 males and 1 gigantic wolf were gathered around a man who was helplessly sprawled on the rocky road. Empathy exploded in my chest as I saw that one of the unknown men started striking the man on the ground, making him flinch and slump back onto the road. I turned around and ran, hoping I wouldn't trip on my way outside. The house was quiet, echoing with the sound of my bare feet slapping against the tiled floor. Making my way outside, I noticed that Christos was now the one standing over the man, whose back was turned to me. Christos, what are you doing? I shouted, watching as his eyes looked into mine in shock. Emberly, get inside. Now, he demanded in a growl, affecting me as I was not used to him talking to me in this tone. Emberly. I heard a hauntingly familiar voice calling my name as I watched the man on the ground turn around. Just then, my body fell into a horrific state of shock as I was now facing the man of my nightmares. Chapter 15. Emberly Harper's POV. The all-too-familiar face revealed itself to me, waking almost forgotten bad memories. Andreas. What are you doing here? I asked, beginning to shiver from the well-known fear. Andreas's bloodshot eyes scanned over my body, a hateful glare swirling in them. You ungrateful girl, he spat with disgust. Instantly, Christos stepped in, striking Andreas and knocking him back. I looked away, cringing at the violence. Taking a few steps back, I noticed Christos looking into the distance while keeping Andreas pinned to the ground. Turning, my eyes widened at the sight of Bruno walking his way over to us, a furious expression stamped onto his face. His pace quickened with every step, his intentions clear. You finally found this man, he muttered lowly, lifting Andreas by his shirt. The strength of Bruno was confirmed as he struck Andreas, knocking him unconscious. I could not move. I wished I could, but my legs failed me, making me drop down to the dusty road. Sharp rocks scraped the skin on my knees. That drew Bruno's attention, so he let go of the man and let him drop to the ground. Take him to the cells, he ordered Christos and the other 2 males. They bowed to him in respect. Christos grabbed my stepfather and carried him away. Bruno knelt next to me, wrapping his bulky arms around me as if I were a child that needed to be protected. Deep down, I only needed the comfort of his embrace. I told you, Bruno, he came for me, I spoke, barely above a whisper. I was assured that I would be taken back to the house where I had spent my whole life. Emberly, he can't get to you now. You are safe with me, dear, he assured me as he buried my head into his chest. Exhaling, I nodded slowly as I tried to shake away the evil thoughts. He got up, gathering me in his arms. I protested, wanting to walk on my own. There is no way I am letting you go now, he mumbled into my ear, almost as if he was afraid that anyone else would hear his words. In what seemed to be the blink of an eye, we arrived at our room and lay down in the spacious bed. This night, I did not want to scoot away from him. This night was one in a million, where I finally admitted to myself something confusing, considering that this man had basically trapped me. I had feelings for him, the kind where I got attached way too quickly. With that thought, I closed my exhausted eyes and fell into slumber. You thought you were going to find peace? His voice rang in my ears, making me close my eyes for a few seconds in pure fear. You thought I wasn't going to find you, he asked again, the sound of a heavy chain in his hand syncing with his words. Knowing my fate already, I could not do much except lean against the wall and wait for my punishment. Answer me, Amberly Rose. Did you think that he could hide you from me? He shouted, looking terrifying. I'm sorry, Father, I barely spoke, my throat as dry as the Sahara Desert. With a dark chuckle, he gripped his weapon tighter. Trust me, Amberly Rose, you're going to be sorry just after this, he said right before swinging the chain. With a scream, I woke myself as I jumped up into a sitting position. I also woke up Bruno instantly. He instinctively pulled me towards himself, his body warmth calming my shaking frame immediately as I proceeded to sob. I will stay awake with you, Mia Ballerina. The dusk is almost here, he comforted me, kissing the top of my head. Thank you, I said, my gratitude fully poured into those two simple words. And thank you for saving me from my demons, he responded, his tone of voice bringing absolute peace to me. Bruno, if only you knew how much you meant to me already. Chapter 16. Amberly Harper's POV. Hours had passed, and we stayed in the same position, a comfortable silence surrounding us as both of us drowned in our own thoughts. I was facing the window so that I could greet the sun peeking over the tall hills, decorated with thick woods. 2 weeks had passed with strong winds, and we were slowly approaching the scalding hot summer air. The silence was interrupted by the clicking sound of the door handle, which suddenly sounded obnoxiously loud. Turning my head in alarm, I saw Christos's face mirroring shock. At first, I wondered why, but soon realized I was cuddled up in Bruno's lap. I'm sorry to interrupt you too, but I have news that I need to share, he announced, making me try to turn my body toward him. But Bruno's grip did not agree with that decision. What is it? Bruno questioned, irritation clear in his voice. Amberly's stepfather wants to see her. He finally said it, making my eyebrows shoot up. My stomach churned with sickness. The thought of seeing him terrified me utterly. No, Bruno reacted instantly, pulling me even closer. As Christos was about to exit the room, I stopped him. Wait, maybe I need to finally face him, face my fear, I thought out loud, my heart already pumping with adrenaline. Bruno looked at me in disbelief and disapproval, his eyes darkening. You're not going. I don't want you anywhere near that bastard, he growled possessively, his animalistic instincts surfacing as his eyes started flashing red. I placed my hand on his chest shakily, reassuring him. Please, just this one time. I need to finally tell him what I always wanted to. After a few deep breaths, he finally nodded his head and dismissed Christos. As soon as the door closed, Bruno let me crawl off his lap. You will need to wear something more covering. I know the way he'll look at you, he said more to himself than to me as he got up and walked over to his closet. Pulling out red basketball shorts and another one of his shirts, he handed them to me. Taking them gratefully, I padded my way over to the bathroom and changed quickly. As we walked down the unfamiliar hallway, I noticed the freezing air. The space was mostly concrete, with over 30 prison cells lining it. A few begging voices reached me, vulgar words leaving their mouths. I did the most predictable thing I could do. I cuddled closer to Bruno's side. From the corner of my eye, I saw him looking down at me with a breathtaking smile. At least there was something to give me comfort in a moment like this. You wanted this, Amberly. So deal with it now, *, I encouraged myself. When everyone stopped at the very end of the long hallway, I took a deep breath. Through the rusted metal bars lay a blood-covered man, known as my stepfather. My abuser. He was resting against the damaged wall, his eyes meeting mine once he looked up from the dusty ground. His tired eyes glanced over at Bruno for a few moments before focusing back on me, a plea dripping from them. Please, Amberly Rose. Tell him to let me go, he asked as expected, making my confidence shoot up. It made me realize I was the one who had power this time. "Why, so you can go and beat me again?" I asked, my voice sounding weak. I still had trauma just from seeing this man, but now I felt relieved that he could not get to me. I could instantly sense his mood changing, visible in his bloodthirsty eyes. "Get me out of here," he shouted forcefully, leaping forward and making me take a few steps back. My breathing got shallower, and my heartbeat fastened instantly. Bruno let out a murderous growl, snarling at him as he wrapped his arms around my waist. "Bruno, it's fine," I assured him, lightly pushing his arms off me. Understanding that I was all right, he nodded. "You know, Amberly Rose, you are a really beautiful girl," he voiced lowly, tracing his hand against the cold metal bar that kept him away from me. The chilling tone of his voice made my whole body break out in unwanted goosebumps. I could feel Bruno tense up, also. "So astonishing, just like your mother." She was so gentle, but yet so fiery. "Don't mention her," I snapped, unable to stand him talking about a woman I loved so dearly. He barely even loved her, I knew that, even as a child. But in the end, he still decided to blame me for her death. "And so damn sexy," he groaned, sickening me fully. Bruno jumped in, his fist connecting with Andreas's face through the bars. Gasping, I turned around and faced him, seeing that his eyes had changed their color to full red now. His teeth were evolving into sharp canines. "You know what he is. He won't harm you, Amberly, asterisk." "Please, you have to calm down," I begged, glancing over to see that Christos was shaking his head at me. "He wanted to hurt you." "He wants what's mine," Bruno breathed out, his eyes still focused on his prey. My mouth was sealed shut, all my words vanishing into the tension-thickened air. "You can't do it, Amberly Rose. You are too damn weak for that," I heard the prey talking, making me turn around in pure anger. "Do you want to be killed? Do you see that he is on the edge?" I shouted. To all of that, he smirked. "Killed. Just like your mother, when I slowly started slitting her throat. When I watched her choke on her own blood. That kind of killed," he spoke proudly, his psychotic words sending shock throughout my entire body. A disturbing realization hit me, and a few heavy tears fell. You killed her? You killed her and then beat me for the rest of the years?" "It was all your fault," I whispered, the picture of my mother's dead body flashing before my eyes. "And I enjoyed it," he admitted, making rage spread in me like waves of a cold ocean. Closing my eyes, I said something I never thought would come out of my mouth. "If you want to play that way, all right then. You will be killed tomorrow. Your body will suffer as you slowly sink into the death that you deserved." Chapter 17. Bruno Lishan's POV. She lay in bed, her eyes wide open in horror at what she had heard not so long ago. Tears escaped her eyes. She did not even care enough to wipe them away. She would usually hide them, but this time was different. She was broken, the horrific truth about her mother's death crippling her completely. She needed comfort, warmth. "He will get what he deserves, Mia Ballerina," I said as I kissed the top of her head adoringly, making her huff out in pure stress. I can't get it out of my head. "I can still see the picture of her dead body laying on the floor," she admitted calmly, even though hurricanes and wildfires were spreading inside of her. It would take just a second for her to break. "Bruno, can you hold me?" she asked shyly, her head hanging low as she fiddled with her fingers nervously. Regardless of the situation, my heart was swelling with adoration for this female that I wanted to protect and provide for so dearly. Grinning, I took her into my arms and positioned her small figure onto my lap, where she always lay when she needed protection. As the sun set fully, she quietly began to sob onto my shoulder as I felt her tears stain my shirt. "Don't cry, beautiful. I am sure your mother is watching over you now. She must be proud of your decision," I said as I looked into her deep, dark eyes and saw a spark of her spirit dying down. Hesitantly and carefully, almost as if she was made out of glass and would slip out of my hands any moment, I pressed a feather-light kiss onto her tear-stained cheek. My lips exploded with tingles, her tears still on my lips as I watched a breathtaking smile appear on her face. Even while she was crying, her smile looked like she was the happiest person on this planet. My wolf was now begging me to come out. He wanted to spend time with her also. She was precious to both of us, and I was almost too selfish to give him time to be with our little mate. She was such a good person, Bruno. I still remember so many things from my childhood, she mumbled tiredly, staring off into the distance, almost as if she was remembering every single memory. Go to sleep now, mia ballerina. Tomorrow is a big day, I whispered down to her, watching as she closed her eyes slowly and innocently, falling into a state of slumber. Walking out of the thick woods and stepping onto clear ground, I noticed numerous pack members bowing down to my wolf, their alpha. While walking, I was only focused on one thing, the man held down by Christos's gray wolf. That man deserved his fate for all the damage he had done to Emberly and her mother. When he finally saw me, I watched as fear filled his eyes. I wanted to kill him ever since Emberly wanted him dead. I wanted to be the one who would send him straight to hell. I heard him mumbling something to himself, mainly curses. Once Christos let go of him, and I walked closer, he crawled back with clear hope for life. Even if he escaped, I would catch him effortlessly. There was no way he could be saved. Lunging forward, I let my wolf take over. He screamed and tried to move across the muddy ground, wanting to escape. I circled the man, ensuring there was no way out. He could do nothing but scream and hope someone would hear him, other than my pack members. When it was time to end it, I hovered over him. We were now face to face. With a growl, I finished it. I waited until his body became limp beneath me. I finally ended him. Emberly will finally be peaceful now. Now we can focus on each other. I stepped back once I was assured that he was dead. Chapter 18. Emberly Harper's POV. Seeing a shirtless Bruno walking in felt like a huge relief, especially after he smiled brightly my way as he started stepping towards me. He is all gone now, he voiced proudly, making a slight grin make its way onto my face as I looked up at him. I was finally free. He could not harm me anymore. Thank you, Bruno. Thank you so much. Not knowing what else to say, I expressed my gratitude in the simplest way possible, finally feeling free enough to smile. My heart yearned for contact, almost as if my body wanted to be close to him. I wanted to feel his warm arms around me. I felt worthy when I was with this man. But instead of hugging him like I wished to, I sent another thankful smile his way before diving down beneath the sheets. He also lay down, the feeling of his body dipping the mattress sending butterflies straight to my stomach. Everything about him made me nervous and anxious, leaving my mind in a clutter of dreams and wishes. I could not forget the image of him lying next to me. It was late at night, the wall clock ticking 3 a.m, as I turned to my other side, not managing to fall asleep like the person who lay next to me. The beautiful, astonishing being that usually screamed danger. But while he was resting his mind and body, he looked innocent and simply too easy to adore. Who would know that I would develop such strong yet secretive feelings towards the man that I saw just 3.5 weeks ago? Even taking into consideration that I found out he was a werewolf, my feelings still did not budge. Groaning quietly, I fell back onto the bed and, unfortunately, watched as Bruno's eyes opened. Feeling guilty that I woke him up, I grimaced. "Why are you awake?" he mumbled lazily as he pulled me towards himself with ease. Feeling the heat rush to my face once again, I tried looking away from the dazzling eyes that stared straight at me. I couldn't fall asleep, I admitted shyly, burying my head into the crook of his neck so I could breathe in his comforting scent. "Is there a particular reason for that?" he questioned, his thumb grazing over my collarbone lightly until he felt me shiver. Finally turning my head to look at him, I shook my head and grinned cheekily while I gave myself the right to stare at him. He was perfect, truly. "You have no idea how handsome you are," I blurted out without any second thought, my embarrassment flying through the roof as soon as I did so. He barked out a light laugh, putting his perfectly shaped teeth on display. "Thank you, mia ballerina." "You are beautiful as well," he said, trying to mimic my tone humorously. Once he noticed how shy I had become, he gently moved so that he was hovering over me, his eyes searching mine. I looked up at him in surprise. "Bruno," I whispered, placing my palms on his shoulders. I could feel my cheeks practically burning. Tell me if this is too much, he whispered, pressing a small peck right beneath my ear, causing an explosion of emotions inside of me. I did not respond. Instead, I closed my eyes and felt his lips graze over my neck. Peppering small kisses on it, he smiled against my skin. As an unfamiliar warmth spread through my body, my heart began to pulse. I opened my eyes to look at him. His eyes now held a darker shade of blue, filled with affection. "What is it, mia ballerina?" he asked softly, making me bite my lip. "Nothing," I whispered, feeling my chest heave up and down as my heart hammered against my ribcage. Glancing down at his lips, I found myself wanting to kiss him. Passionately and slowly, just like I read about. I wanted him to take me in his arms. You have no idea how hard it is for me to hold back now. I want to kiss you. I want to feel you close to me. "Mia ballerina, you're driving me crazy," he admitted, making happiness rush through my veins. Gulping, I whispered, "Don't hold back." His eyes widened slightly. He held me securely, his body pressed against mine. All of my thoughts vanished into the air that was now thick with tension once I felt his lips press onto mine. The warmth of his lips traveled through my body, making goosebumps rise on my skin. They moved in perfect sync. Deepening the kiss, Bruno held me tighter. "Holy," he whispered onto my lips once we parted. Not being able to suppress a smile that crept its way onto my face, I pulled him closer. Even though I was shy, I wanted no space in between us for now. "I won't be able to fall asleep just now," I said, not being able to look away from his eyes. He smiled lightly, pressing another meaningful peck to my lips. "Don't worry, I think I can help with that," he said, rolling to the side and gathering me in his arms before hugging me to his body. This was what I longed for as soon as I arrived here. This man would be the death of me. Chapter 19. Emberly Harper's POV. Waking up, I felt around me. The bed was empty, the sheets fully tucked around me. Opening my eyes, I finally noticed the room was empty. I was, unfortunately, the only one in it. Realizing it was already 9 in the morning, which I considered late, I hurried to get my body out of the cozy bed. Even though I was yearning for a little bit of sleep that I lacked from last night, I needed to get myself cleaned and ready for the day. Thankfully, I felt freer around this house and rushed to the bathroom. Looking into the spotless mirror, I noticed that my whole being was improving. Since the only clothes I had on were oversized male clothing, I slipped them off with ease and stepped inside the big shower cabin. I would need to ask Bruno to purchase me clothes soon. I couldn't just run around in Bruno's shirts. Even though that idea sounded quite good to me, I felt bad that I was taking his clothing pieces without shame. Turning on the splashing cold water, my brain recalled last night's memories. At the sole thought of it, my cheeks heated up and my stomach erupted with adrenaline. The fact that we kissed was still unbelievable to me, and the way he touched me made my mind wander to various romantic scenarios. "It's been 15 minutes since you've been in the shower, Emberly, I reminded myself, my daydreaming getting a little out of hand since I had lost track of time. Stepping out and wrapping a big, fluffy towel around me, I was slowly starting to look presentable. "Bruno? Christos?" I called as I walked down the big set of stairs, not yet hearing from either of them. In the kitchen, Mia ballerina, I heard Bruno's voice calling out to me, making me smile cheekily and skip down the stairs. This morning was quite chilly, yet sunny, so my mood was genuinely happy. Walking into the kitchen, I closed my eyes as the pleasant scent of food filled my nostrils. Toast, eggs, and bacon. Bruno was making breakfast. The sight of his bare back sent my brain spinning, the way the muscles in his back moved looking deliciously attractive. "Good morning," I called softly, looking around to see no one else but him in the room. Thankfully. Turning around, he greeted me with a warm smile. "Good morning. Sit down. Breakfast will be served soon," he said as he mixed something in the pan before him, which looked like scrambled eggs. "I didn't know you could cook," I commented once he placed the delicious-looking plate in front of me, which was stacked entirely with food. He smirked smugly, taking a seat right next to me. "It's nothing compared to your abilities." He cleared his throat, that sentence most likely having a double meaning. Laughing lightly, I popped a piece of the food in my mouth, instantly humming at the rich flavor. Distracted by the marvelous food placed in front of me, I paid no attention to the fact that Bruno's eyes were staring heavily at me. Turning my head, my eyes formed a questioning look as I continued to chew. "You know you're all mine, right?" he said randomly, an emotional look lingering in his eyes. Almost choking on my food, I nodded shyly. "Why? Why did you say that all of a sudden?" Confused, I decided to ask. "Because I don't want you to think differently." "Understand that I can't stay without you," he told me, making me question his behavior even more. Why was he like this all of a sudden? Sure, I knew that I was all his and I didn't want to change that, but this came so randomly. I did have feelings for him, strong ones. The kind of feelings where I couldn't get him out of my head. He made me think so many things at once. It almost seemed fictional. Gulping, I responded. "I don't think any differently. I am so thankful for everything you did for me and the things you make me feel." "What do I make you feel?" He interrupted me in the middle of the sentence. Slowly but surely, I realized why he was telling me this. He was afraid that I would leave him. That I was staying here because I was forced to. "Strong feelings, Bruno. I want you to know that they are fully real and that I won't leave," I said, hopping off the kitchen stool and nearing his body. With a cheeky grin, I wrapped my arms around his abdomen and buried my head in his chest while his arms seemed to swallow me whole. Mia Ballerina *, you are everything that I ever wished for, he admitted lowly, kissing my forehead and then leaning down to press another heated kiss to my lips. Look at my two lovebirds." I heard a sudden shout and let out a startled scream as I jumped back, seeing a smirking Christos standing in the doorframe. "I feel like a proud mother," he exclaimed happily, dramatically clapping a hand over his chest. "Christos, didn't I tell you to stay away from the house?" Bruno shouted at his beta for interrupting our moment. With slightly narrowed eyes, Christos waved Bruno away with a smile. "Hold your horses, Eve," he called out, making me look at Bruno in confusion. "Who is Eve?" I questioned, slight jealousy spreading across my body. Was that his girlfriend before I came here? Eve is in fact Bruno's middle name that his mother gave him. God, I love that woman. She gave me another reason to mess with him, Christos said proudly as he folded his hands behind his back. With a laugh, I looked over at Bruno to see his face reddening with embarrassment. "Christos, I will need to talk to you later," he warned, not making Christos move a muscle. He just held a wicked grin on his face, which could only mean that he was about to crack another one of his typical jokes. "Are you going to scold me?" he gasped dramatically, winking at Bruno, who now had a clear look of disgust on his face. "They teamed up on me now," Bruno mumbled to himself, his steps brisk as he exited the kitchen. Another laugh escaped me as I turned to Christos again. "You are just full of surprises, aren't you?" Chapter 20. Bruno Lishan's POV. Sitting in the uncomfortable chair in my study, I watched as the papers started to pile up more with every passing day. With my impatience growing, I slapped a fist down onto my hardwood desk. Having a pack full of rebellious wolves was not exactly amazing, especially now that I had my Luna by my side. Looking over at Christos and Lucas, my gamma, I started to pick over my thoughts deeply. This can't be possible. There isn't any chance that the territory files just slipped out of here, I brainstormed, somewhat aware of the fact that there was a spy present in my pack. Christos and Lucas shared a knowing glance before looking back at me with their eyes slightly narrowed. They knew something. "We think we know who it might be," Lucas voiced deeply, making my wolf's ears perk up in alert. "Who?" I demanded, my frustration slowly rising. "Bryson. We caught him sneaking out of your father's study yesterday. He said that he was just taking an order from your father. I want him and my parents here in less than an hour," I demanded and pushed the chair back, my mind now focusing on finding Emberly. She must be in the kitchen. I crept my way down the stairs and walked into the space, my assumptions turning out to be true after all. She was swaying to a beat that she was lightly humming, her hips moving in subtle circles. Oh God, this woman will be the death of me. Slowly, I walked up behind her and placed my hands on her tiny hips. With a loud shriek of surprise, she jumped back and slapped her hand over her chest. Eyeing me carefully, she questioned, "For how long have you been standing there?" "Enough time for me to see certain things." Smirking, I watched as a deep rosy color spread across her cheeks. Her head hung low as she turned around again, continuing to stir something in a big pot. Snaking my arms around her waist and resting my head on her shoulder, I pressed my lips against her ear. Tingles tingled my lips, yearning for more contact. Don't be shy, Mia Ballerina. For all I care, you can jump around a pile of mud, and you'd still be beautiful to me, I whispered against her ear, making her press against me even more and smile. She was so innocent. She thought we were just having a happy moment, which we were, but she had no idea the effect she had on me. Our moment was interrupted once my parents entered the room rather loudly, and my mother let out a squeal of adoration. Turning around, I saw that she was looking at us with a big smile on her face. But I also noticed that my father was still stiff, his brain focused on the matter at hand. "Oh, you have no idea how happy you just made me," my mother cut in as she gathered both my mate and me into a hug. With a shy smile, Emberly hugged my mother back while I tried to escape her tight grasp. "Mom, I know that you're happy now and I am too, but we need to focus," I said, making her step back and nod. Emberly looked at me, confused, obviously unfamiliar with this situation. "Where are we going?" she questioned once she saw that I was exiting the kitchen with my parents. "You're not going anywhere, Mia B," I began, but was interrupted once again by my mother. She looked at me heavily, her eyes scolding. "Bruno, be quiet. Your mate is the Luna of your pack." "She has to be there," she said, confusing Emberly even more. "But Mom, Don't listen to him, darling. Come with me," she said and hooked Emberly's arm with hers before taking her toward the cells that her stepfather was once in. I smirked at the thought of it. I felt a sense of finality knowing he could no longer hurt her. Emberly stood at my left, my mother next to her, and my father standing to my right. Christos and Lucas stood behind us, while Bryson knelt in the dirt. I knew that Emberly was not quite comfortable with this place, so I gave her a small comforting smile before stepping forward. Bryson's buff body shook from the cold. He was left only in his underwear. "Bryson," I called his name, making his head lift shamefully. "Is it true that you have been spying on your own alpha and taking information to another pack's alpha?" I questioned, even though I knew the answer. Falling to his knees completely, he nodded his head. "If so, you are going to suffer the consequences of betraying your alpha," I announced, stepping closer to him and making him look me in the eyes. He knew his fate. He was silent. "You are going to be execut," I want to say my final sentence, but I felt a warm hand placed on my back. Knowing exactly who it was, I turned around and faced my mate. Her eyes were full of sadness, empathy for this young wolf. "Bruno, that is a bad idea." "Let me," she asked quietly, looking down at the desperate man. "You can't." "Please," she pleaded once again, making me nod at her and take one step back. She was now in front of Bryson. He bowed to her. "Bryson, look at me," she ordered, her voice now sounding more assured and confident. He did as he was told, meeting eyes with her. "Explain yourself. Why did you betray your own alpha and your pack?" A slight grin made its way onto my face. At a moment like this, it looked like she was born a wolf. "I had to. Alpha Steven threatened me with the life of my mate who is currently in his pack," he explained, making me let out a growl. "Alpha Steven would be punished soon enough, not only for this. You could have come and talked to your alpha. It is his job to find a solution." She spoke with much respect. I was scared, he mumbled, a sniffle escaping him. He was crying now. "Bryson, you will not be killed, I can assure you," she said, glancing over at me and then back at him to continue. "But you will have to collect as much information as you can from the other pack. I do not care how, you can do it if you want your mate rescued." Bryson nodded with tears still in his eyes. "Thank you, Luna." With that, she walked out of the cell and went back to the house with my mother at her side. They were inseparable now. Letting go of Bryson, I repeated the thing that Emberly said and turned back to my father, who had a slight smile plastered on his face. "Son, she is special. With that much respect for you and empathy for the pack members, she is a real Luna."
End of chapter analysis. Emberly just pulled a brilliant tactical maneuver. An alpha's instinct is to eliminate threats, which is why Bruno was ready to execute Bryson. But Emberly saw an opportunity. By sparing Bryson's life, she bought his undying loyalty, and by forcing him to act as a double agent, she turned a liability into an asset. This moment proves that her human empathy isn't a weakness in this brutal world, it is her greatest weapon. She didn't just save a man. She secured an ally inside the enemy camp. Audience engagement questions. That was a major power move by our new Luna. Let's discuss it. Bruno was ready to execute the traitor instantly. Do you think Emberly was right to spare him, or is leaving a traitor alive too risky? Bryson betrayed the pack to save his own mate. Does love justify treason in your eyes? Bruno's father called her a real Luna at the end. How important is it that the previous alpha validated her choice? Transition teaser. Emberly has saved the spy and won the respect of the in-laws, but by sending Bryson back to the enemy, she has officially started a war with Alpha Steven.
Chapter 21. Entering the kitchen again, this time alone, I continued making a dish that I had left on the stove not so long ago. Right now, it was perfectly made and ready to be served. But unfortunately, I would have to look for everyone in the house. Groaning, I was about to exit the kitchen and climb the stairs when I heard a familiar voice. Good evening, Mia Ballerina. Turning around with a smile, I noticed Bruno leaning on the staircase with a broad smile spread on his lips. Climbing back down, I dove into his arms and smelled his scent. A hint of jasmine now appeared in his musk, making me even more vulnerable to this male. Good evening, I mumbled, feeling his hands creep under one of his shirts and caress my lower back. My cheeks instantly flushed a deep pink, his touch sending goosebumps all over my legs. Everyone left. There is only us two in the house, he informed me as we parted from a long hug, his beautiful blue eyes meeting mine. I frowned slightly at the fact, knowing that no one would be able to try the special recipe that my mother taught me when I was just a little kid. Are you hungry? I made a lot of food, I said with a grin, unable to wait for his reaction when he tried it. Since I was standing 2 stairs higher than him, he looked up at my lips and let a smirk tug on his own. I'm hungry for something else, he mumbled. I was confused for a moment until his lips pressed against mine. Realization hit me that we were about to share another heated moment. He lifted me up in his arms and kissed me sweetly once again before climbing the stairs and carrying me towards our room. As soon as the heavy door closed, he put me down on the bed and leaned over me. My hands roamed his back, eventually combing through his hair and tugging slightly on the sandy, silky strands. Groaning, he collided our lips again and let his hand trace a line on my outer thigh. Euphoria took over my body once he started kissing the sensitive skin of my neck. I let out a soft sound that naturally escaped me, a quiet sigh as I held onto him. You like that, Mia Ballerina? He mumbled against my skin, making me let out yet another sigh. Yes, I whispered, weak beneath his touch. With a smile, he started kissing my lips hungrily again. Rougher and more dominant than ever before, he showed his animalistic side that I could not help but fully adore. Look at you. You are so beautiful, he growled, kissing the crook of my neck. I suppressed a smile, but it escaped once I heard him mumbling my nickname once again. Bruno, I called, making him look into my eyes. The setting sun mirrored in his crystal orbs, setting my insides on fire. He was perfect, truly. His looks never failed to amaze me, but his personality especially, the dominant male who actually had many sweet spots for the ones he loved. His family, his friends, his pack, his mate. Yes, Mia Ballerina, he questioned, his eyes still intense and his lips slightly swollen from the kisses he had planted on my body. He probably expected me to say that I was enjoying the moment, but something much more slipped from my lips. I love you. He stopped, his eyes widening as they stared at mine. He was unmoving until a smile crashed onto his face. It looked so big, his happiness genuine. He kissed my lips again, but this time he moved slowly. Almost as if he wanted to savor this moment, remember it for the rest of his life. And I kissed back equally as slowly, enjoying the same thing he did. I love you too, amore mio, he mumbled against my shoulder. My heart exploded, my eyes focused on nothing but him. Our love soon turned into passion as the tension in the room rose in a matter of seconds. Groaning, Bruno buried his head in my chest. My hands crept to his hair again, tugging slightly. I'm going to make you mine once you're ready, Emberly. So sweetly, slowly, he whispered in my ear, his voice incredibly raspy. I shivered at the thought. And it will be your special night. You will be treated like a goddess. I will mark you as mine finally, he added, climbing off me and getting off the bed. I was instantly cold, missing his body warmth. Come now, let's eat, he invited, holding his hand out for me, which I gladly took with a smile. While we ate in peace, I could not help but think about what he said. Once I was ready, he spoke. I felt so much warmth spreading inside of me, my body itching to feel all of him. But I decided to wait a little longer until I was entirely comfortable. Maybe that would take time, but at least I would get the best result in the end. Chapter 22. Bruno Lishan's POV. Over the many weeks that had passed, my need for Emberly grew stronger. I yearned to touch her, feel her smooth skin against my hand, and kiss her. My wolf wanted it too, without any doubt. He was ready to mark our beautiful little mate, take care of her, provide for her, and show her our strength. Since the passionate moment we shared over a month ago, I've been admiring her. She was beautiful, like a goddess before my eyes. I was desperate for that woman. I was sure she felt a pull toward me as well, judging by the secretive looks of adoration she gave me when she thought I wasn't paying attention. The truth was, I had been utterly obsessed with her. As much as I loved her and wanted to hold her in my arms forever, I also wanted to be close to her in every way possible. Bruno. I heard her honey-sweet voice calling my name, making me look up with a subtle smile on my lips. She was currently wearing yoga pants and an oversized t-shirt she had taken from my closet. Even though she had a whole wardrobe, she still liked to borrow my clothes. Not that I minded, she looked absolutely amazing wrapped in my scent. Yes, Mia Ballerina? I questioned, leaning my elbows on my knees as I stared at her openly. I'm going to take a shower, she informed me. Do you want to do anything after that? Opening my mouth, I was about to tell her my honest thoughts, but realizing I needed to keep my composure, I paused for a moment. Do you want to watch a movie? I asked. She nodded eagerly and turned toward the bathroom. And what do you want for dinner? She asked before stepping inside. Whatever you make, darling, I called out, my voice slightly rough. What kind of movie should we watch? She asked again, this time from the doorway. I don't know, whatever you choose, I said, letting the choice be up to her. She smiled and finally closed the bathroom door. I listened as the shower turned on, the sound of the water filling the room's silence. I leaned my head back against the headboard, running a hand through my hair as I tried to calm my racing thoughts. My feelings for her were becoming impossible to ignore, and every moment she was near, my resolve was tested. After some time, the water stopped. Emberly stepped out a few minutes later, drying her hair with a white towel, looking refreshed. My head was still resting between the pillows as I watched her move around the room to find her clothes. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. If only she knew how much she affected me. Chapter 23. Emberly Harper's POV. It was late at night, and my mind was wandering since I could not fall asleep. I stared out the wide window, the moon greeting me with its dazzling silver shine that grazed my skin through the glass. I had a cup of tea in my hands, almost scalding. But thankfully, it was bearable, and I freely continued to stare out at nowhere as I dug through my thoughts. Every time, my thoughts flew to Bruno, almost as if I had nothing else in life to wonder about. I thought about his bulging muscles and the layer of tan skin that lay on top of them. His abdominal muscles reached low enough for his V-line to come to mind. Never getting to see what was beneath that boundary, I tried hard not to think about those kinds of things. I was surrounded by tension, making my lips thirsty for his. Damn him and his power to affect me so quickly. Suddenly, out of the blue, an idea broke through all the thoughts, and I smiled genuinely. Writing. I had a wish to write, pour all my wondering onto a sheet of paper. I wanted to fill the white blankness with inked words, my thoughts. Would Bruno mind if I walked to his study and took some? I saw once that he had a stack of white printer paper in one of the drawers in his desk, along with pens resting on it. I was sure he wouldn't be mad about a few sheets of paper that were basically meaningless to him, so I got to my feet. Not wanting to cause any unwanted noise in the house, I left my slippers in our room and carefully creaked open the door. I did not want him to wake up, or Christos. His parents were also staying here for the weekend, so I certainly did not want to stay in his office. Padding across the cold tiled floor, I felt shivers spread through my body. Damn me for not wearing socks. Thankfully, I knew well where his study was, and I had no problem finding the door. Walking in, I instantly noticed shelves, binders, and furniture lying in the thick dark. With a slight struggle to find a switch, I flicked on the lights of the small chandelier. Squinting my eyes, I walked over to his desk and knelt next to the set of long drawers. In the first one, there was a set of unknown files and words I certainly did not understand. The second one was filled to the brim with different files, again something I did not need. The last one finally had something I needed. Printing paper. I slipped the smooth paper between my fingers and was about to close the drawer, but something caught my eye. A piece of paper that was already written on, looking damaged from many rips and crumbles on the ends of the sheet. Curious beyond measure, I hesitantly picked up the paper and brought it closer to my face. Many female names were slapped messily onto the paper, the handwriting being the same as Bruno's. Surnames, telephone numbers, and many traits and pieces of information were also scattered there, making me even more confused than I already was. What the hell is this? Deciding that I would ask him the next morning, I folded the paper and scrambled off with a pen also resting between my fingers. Waking up the next morning, I realized that Bruno was not in bed with me. The other side of the bed was equally messy as mine, meaning he must have been in a hurry when he woke up. Rising from the bed, the damaged piece of paper came into my mind again. Why did he have so many women's names written down? Taking the paper from the nightstand, where I put it last night, I rose to my feet and made my way down the stairs. Maybe he was in the kitchen? After checking the kitchen, which was entirely empty and cleaned, I walked over to the living room. No one was inside aside from Christos. He was sitting on one of the couches, his slipper-clad feet resting on the coffee table. "Good morning," I mumbled, nearing him and sitting next to his relaxed body. "Good morning, Sloth," he greeted with a cheeky grin resting on his lips. Deciding to ignore the new nickname he had invented, I leaned back into the couch and averted my gaze to the television. Some documentary was playing. "Christos, I have a question," I blurted out, deciding I would ask him about the paper. "Yeah, what is this?" Asking quietly, I took the paper out of my hand and handed it to him. He looked at it with a confused look for a solid 5 seconds before his bright eyes blew wide. He read over the names multiple times, making silence fall upon us as it seemed to strangle me. "What?" I asked again, seeing that he obviously knew something about this. And I supposed it was nothing near good. Where did you find this?" He waved the paper around in the air, choking out his words with a visible struggle. "I saw it in Bruno's study last night." I needed paper, I explained briefly, still waiting impatiently for what he was about to tell me. "Well, this is a list." "Obviously." "Of what?" I asked, raising my voice slightly at the stuttering man before me, snapping him out of his thoughts. "Of women that Bruno has been with," he blurted out quickly, making my jaw drop instantly. Shock overpowered me, my eyes averting to the paper still waving in Christos's hand. Reaching for it, I felt tears slowly cascade in my eyes. "Emberly, don't. Give me the paper, Christos." I raised my voice again, suddenly intense and demanding. He handed the crumbled paper over to my shaky hand, letting my eyes fly over the names. 29 names were listed. Replaying the moment when he said that we were destined to be together, when he told me that I was the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen, anger instantly rose inside of me. How did he do it? I asked the most insane question I could ever ask, making Christos's eyes fly away from mine. "I can't tell you that, I'm sorry." Christos, please. I found out things I shouldn't have already. This won't change anything, I pleaded, a tear already escaping my eye before I could wipe it away. Exhaling, he accepted the fact that he had to tell me. He's intense, Emberly. Chapter 24. Emberly Harper's POV. He's what? I questioned in a shout, dearly hoping that I didn't hear him right. I was already at my edge, ready to blow up and let out my anger on the first thing I saw. He has a dark side. He can be rough. Too rough for most, Christos repeated himself, almost as if he supposed I did not know the definition of the words. My shoulders slumped, my whole mood going to hell and beyond. I thought of all the times that we shared intimate moments and all the times that he treated me gently. I felt like it was all an act, like he just wanted to use me. I'm going upstairs, I mumbled, wanting to curl myself in sheets and cry out all the tears that started spilling out now. But instead of running upstairs like I planned to, I stopped in my tracks when Christos's hand gripped my wrist and pulled me back. He looked worried, his eyebrows creasing in a frown that I was not used to seeing on his face. Please don't take this the wrong way, he pleaded, making me look down at my feet and shake my head violently. Yanking my hand out of his grip, I tried to gulp down a ball of pressure that gathered in my throat. He slept with 29 women before I came, Christos. What is there to take the wrong way? I asked, running up the stairs faster than ever before. My head was lifted from beneath the thin sheets when I heard the room door creak open. My eyes focused back on the door, seeing Bruno. His eyebrows were knitted, an angered yet sad look lingering in his stormy blue eyes. Anger built up inside of me instead of sadness. I threw the paper that I had crumbled into a ball at his chest. It fell to the floor, his eyes ripping away from me and averting to it. What's wrong, Mia Ballerina? What's this? He questioned, nodding his head over to the paper that was still lying on the ground. You tell me, Bruno. He finally picked up the ball of paper, his eyes widening once he saw the contents of it. A shocked expression replaced his once confused one, his jaw dropping. 29 women, Bruno. All of them before me. Or after. Who knows? I vocalized, my voice still shaky. But it still held an angry, stone-cold tone that made his tall body freeze. He approached me, sitting on the edge of the bed. I scooted away from him, eventually ending up on the other side of the large mattress. Emberly, it wasn't like what? So you did not sleep with that many women, then told me that you were waiting only for me because I was destined for you. I asked, pulling the sheets closer to my body that suddenly felt so exposed. I can't be what he needs. I can't be a toy that gets tossed around however you want. I lost all hope, Emberly. I thought that I would never find you, he explained himself, his answer angering me even more. With this much distraction, I don't think you even tried, I hissed, lifting myself off the bed and standing on my feet. He copied my action and approached me once again. Bruno, I can't be what you want. I can't be someone that will obey your every wish just so you could feel pleasure. I had enough pain throughout my life. I can't do it. My voice cracked, my puffy eyes producing even more tears. He looked pained, almost as if he was going to cry with me. Regret was present in his eyes, mixed with many more emotions that I was too tired to recognize. And I don't want you to change, Emberly. You are what I want, he gulped. And I did try, I swear I searched as much as I could. But I got dragged into that kind of lifestyle, and I can't regret it more now. I wish I could share my first time with my mate, with the person that I love. I'm so sorry. He looked away, his eyes looking outside the window. They were glossy, the white of his eyes beginning to turn pink. My chest ached. I was the one who felt guilt now. He suddenly started walking, dropping onto his knees in front of me. I gasped and tried to step back, but he held me gently. Bruno, stop, I begged, it paining me to see him shattering right before my eyes. Please, I whispered through tears, hopeless once I saw that he pressed his head against my abdomen. He pulled me towards himself more, kissing the skin of my stomach that was exposed due to my shirt lifting slightly. I am sorry, Mia Ballerina. Incredibly sorry. I know that I've been foolish, he apologized once again, my fingers tangling themselves into his voluminous hair while tears still ran down my face. I can't do anything else. but beg for forgiveness. The damage has already been done. But I will change for you. I want to and need to. I want you to feel love, not pain. He told me this once, lifting his head and our eyes meeting. A smile fell upon my face as I knelt, also capturing our lips together. He still clung to me, his lips falling into the most innocent kiss he had ever given me. I love you, Bruno, I said, grabbing his face with my hand as I stared into his eyes once again. I love you too, Mia Ballerina. More than anything. Chapter 25. Emberly Harper's POV. His parents entered the house suddenly, a laugh escaping his mother's mouth once she saw us cuddled up on the couch. The look in her eyes was filled with overflowing adoration, and her father also wore a proud expression. Oh, my lovebirds. Look at you too, she purred once she sat freely on the couch opposite ours, still smiling widely. Hello to you too, Auntie Marta, Bruno snickered sarcastically, getting nothing but another laugh from her. He grumbled something under his breath, then got up and strode over to the kitchen door. That was practically his sanctuary now. It had a fridge and a place to sit, two things that made that man happy. I let out a small laugh before averting my gaze back to his parents, who were whispering something amongst themselves. Bruno, son, why don't you come outside with me? Let's take a walk, his father suggested, making Bruno and me share a suspicious look. I'll be back soon, Mia Ballerina, he mumbled before kissing my forehead, heading out the door right after. No, you won't. I heard a shout and looked over, seeing Christos approaching the couches with a packet of sugar cookies in his hand. Bruno mumbled a small curse at him before closing the door, leaving the three of us alone in the house. Christos, honey, we needed to talk about something, Marta said, making my wolf's ears perk up with curiosity. What in hell would we talk about? Never mind. It's better to listen to you than to be outside in the cold, he mumbled while filling his mouth with another cookie, taking a seat next to me. Marta waved it off and looked back at me, a subtle grin on her face. I knew that she was up to something, and it made my stomach flip instantly. When did Bruno intend on marking you, darling? She asked without hesitation, making my eyes widen while I listened to Christos's giggles behind my back. I was utterly speechless, my throat slowly beginning to dry out. I don't really know. I gave the best possible answer I could, the thought of his sharp canines sinking into my flesh giving me chills. I could not even imagine the amount of pain I would go through in those 10 seconds. Better be soon. I want grandchildren as soon as possible, she said with a knowing smirk, making me almost choke on the air I was inhaling. Well, they surely aren't far from it, Christos mumbled, earning an elbow that I sent flying towards his abdomen. He coughed dramatically, his whines making the given situation even more awkward than before. Marta had a slight smirk, rigging on her scarlet red lips, making me lean into the couch in pure shame. Christos really deserved to be put on a leash somewhere with something covering his mouth. So, she pushed, making me look up shyly. I really wouldn't know anything about that, I'm sorry. That is up to Bruno to decide, I spoke, pressing my lips into a thin line once I finished talking. Well, do you want him to mark you as his? She questioned, earning a nod from me. Why yes, I mean, why wouldn't I want that? Thankfully you do. You are going to be a lovely Luna, you just need practice and patience. Christos, you really need to stop talking. I attacked him the same second Marta exited the house, making his body flinch slightly. It was followed by a wicked chuckle, which only increased once Bruno entered the house. He looked tired, his hair messy, and his eyes shooting daggers at nothing specific. He was naturally angry. I had come to that conclusion a while ago. When are you going to be marking her, lover boy? Christos questioned, smiling innocently and batting his eyelashes at Bruno, who had now narrowed his eyes in his direction. I believe that is something Emberly and I will discuss soon. It does not include your nosy self, Bruno fired back, taking a seat next to me and enveloping me in his arms. I relaxed once his body heat radiated onto me, but the words soon made me nervous. With a roll of his eyes, Christos continued to talk. Your mother said she wants grandchildren soon. I also want someone to play with and distract myself from you serious people, so get into baby making, he remarked, making blood flush to my cheeks instantly. Bruno looked over at me, a slight smug grin evident on his lips. I agree, he whispered into my ear so only I could hear, making my breath hitch. The thought of us being together sent shivers through my body, and the idea of our child made me smile, too. Once I was ready, we could have as many babies as we wanted. You males. I mumbled, keeping the thoughts to myself, once I got up and made my way over to our room since I felt my eyes closing already. Oh dear Lord, I can already hear his footsteps behind me.
End of chapter analysis. In my opinion, this chapter functions as the final consent check before the climax of the relationship arc. By having Christos and the mother bring up the topics of marking and children explicitly, the narrative forces Emberly to confront them. Notice her reaction at the end, she smiles at the idea of a child. That smile gives Bruno the green light. She isn't running away anymore, she's walking up the stairs, knowing exactly who is following her. Audience engagement questions. The pressure is on. Let's talk about these family dynamics. Marta immediately asked about grandchildren. Is this just excited mother-in-law behavior, or is it too much pressure too soon? Emberly admits she is afraid of the physical pain of the mark. If you were in a world where marriage required a bite, would you be hesitant too? Christos is constantly joking about their sex life. Is he the funny best friend, or does he need to learn some boundaries? Transition teaser. The parents want grandchildren, the alpha wants his mate, and Emberly has stopped running, which means the only thing left to do is close the bedroom door.
Chapter 26. Emberly Harper's POV. Many days have passed, and the only thing that has been on my mind is the marking. I knew that he needed to mark me to make me his officially, and I also knew that I was ready. I was absolutely ready to fall fully into his arms and be with him. My whole being would belong to him, and the same thing was going to be present in his life. Good evening, Mia Ballerina, he mumbled with a smile as he entered the house, pressing a kiss onto my temple. He looked exhausted. The meetings he had been attending were completely tiring him out, since he had to work more than 10 hours a day. How was your day? I questioned once he sat down next to me, unbuttoning his white shirt that seemed to restrict his body. Taking a look at his physique, which had become even more toned from the amount of exercise he had been doing, I could feel myself flushing red once our eyes met. He smirked, a small chuckle escaping him once he pulled me closer to himself. It was horrible, but I frankly hope that you will make it better, he whispered, looking down at me once I settled onto his lap. This had been happening more frequently, us getting into intimate situations that often ended with nothing more than caressing. I knew he wanted more, and I certainly did too. I wanted to feel his body warmth radiating onto my own. I wanted to feel close to him. Trying to gather my thoughts, I closed my eyes for a moment. When I reopened them, I saw Bruno staring at me worriedly. His eye color softened as his lower lip pouted slightly, leaning in to kiss my forehead thoughtfully. What's wrong? He questioned, most likely supposing that I was not comfortable. It was quite the opposite. My heart ached to feel all of him. I felt like I could not contain myself anymore, so I climbed off his lap and took his hand in mine before pulling him up from the couch. Let's take a walk, Bruno. I need fresh air, I said lowly and saw him nod before both of us exited the house. The outside was far more enjoyable. The sun shone brightly, even though the strong wind lessened its effect on my pale skin. The grass slightly swayed, bringing many scents to my nose. Feeling Bruno's hand squeeze mine tighter, I looked up. He had a suspicious look on his face as he looked down at me with an obviously forced smile. What is it, Bruno? I questioned, seeing that something bothered him. Emberly, if you're not ready for anything, I'll stop, he stressed, his gaze averted from my eyes and cast down. I lifted his head with my fingers delicately, a small smile appearing on my lips. No, I want you. Trust me, I want this, I admitted lowly, raising his fallen confidence as I watched him smile at me innocently. I admitted that I wanted him, and I did not feel a trace of shyness because of it. I was speaking the pure truth. But I have so many things on my mind, I added, lunging myself into his embrace. He kissed the top of my head before resting his chin on it, his comforting, warm arms wrapping around me protectively. Feeling his heart slam against his chest at an incredibly rapid pace, I smiled and parted from him. We began walking around the big backyard, flowers and their scents surrounding us in a breeze. This was happiness, I was 100% sure. I felt free, not overwhelmed for the first time in a while. I knew that I could further my life with Bruno Lischen. I wanted him to mark me.
Author's insight. Capture this moment in your mind, Emberly explicitly stating she is 100% sure that this is happiness. She has finally let her guard down. This level of certainty is a narrative device designed to make the betrayal that is about to happen hurt infinitely more.
Story chapter, continue. That decision lingered in my mind for a long time before we stopped suddenly, making me realize that we were in front of the large house again. A black car was parked in front of it now. Someone unfamiliar had arrived on this property, making Bruno let out a growl. Bruno, I need to tell you something, I breathed out, not wanting to lose my chance. There would be many more chances, yes. But I felt a strong need burning inside. My mouth was about to spill out the words when suddenly he spoke again. Emberly, stay behind me, he growled loudly as he entered the house, his posture confident and his steps echoing in the hallways. What is happening? I asked, my mind completely lost in his sudden alert state. I knew that someone had arrived at the house, but could it be an intruder? But then again, who would dare to intrude on Bruno's home? Bruno suddenly stopped in his tracks, making me unexpectedly hit his back as I was disoriented. Taking one step aside, I noticed someone. A male. His tall figure was standing in the middle of the living room, his green eyes focused on me. Shock ran through me, a slight pang of fear, since he looked intense. His face was a spitting image of Bruno, it was just that his hair was chestnut brown and slightly wavy. He looked younger than him, which could only mean one thing. Bruno had a younger brother that he never told me about. All three of us were silent, a tense state lingering in the room as the male still stared at me with wide eyes. I was confused and was about to ask him what he was doing here and who exactly he was, but he spoke instead. His voice was deep and rough, deeper than Bruno's. The voice made goosebumps rise on my skin, but the word that left his mouth made my head spin instantly. Mine.
End of chapter analysis. This is the ultimate cliffhanger to end a story arc. Just as Emberly accepts Bruno, a second male, his own brother, speaks the one word that cannot be ignored, mine. This introduces the two mates or true mate trope. The implications are catastrophic. If the moon goddess has fated Emberly to the brother, then Bruno isn't her soulmate, he is just the man she fell in love with. It pits biological destiny against emotional choice, and it pits brother against brother. The romance is no longer about healing, it is about to become a war. Audience engagement questions. My jaw is on the floor. We need to discuss this immediately. The brother said, mine. Do you think he is the true mate, or is Bruno the true mate? If the brother is her fated mate, should Emberly follow the moon goddess's will, or stay with Bruno who saved her? Why do you think Bruno never mentioned having a brother? Is there a dark secret in the Lischen family history? Transition teaser. Emberly thought her story ended with a kiss, but one word has just undone everything, and now she stands between two alpha bloodlines, forced to choose between the man who saved her life and the man whom fate just claimed.